Hey guys, welcome back to We're the People. Before we jump in today's show, I actually came in early to give an update. A lot of you guys have been asking what's going on with this. You noticed the show with the twins came down. I think we've let you know that we have received a demand letter. We've received a couple of those. And so I wanted to give everyone an update before the show today, because the show today will also tie things in for all of us as well. The allegations we are making are extremely serious. There's nothing more important in the state of Utah than what we are talking about. We are saying that my own church, along with the power structure in this state, have been infiltrated at the highest levels. And I want to be very clear, I'm not an outsider attacking the church. I care deeply about it. I'm not attacking its principles. I also want to be clear, this is not a blanket statement. The church is filled with incredibly good, sincere, and honorable people who have nothing to do with any of this. I know this is incredibly hard for people to hear. Many would rather turn away and not look at it. And trust me, my wife and I would like nothing more than to leave, than to go back to Florida and live a comfortable life. We're exhausted. We have paid a very high price to stand where we are. We've been paying a very high price this week. This has been absolute. I can't tell you what we have gone through and what we are going through right now. So as much as we'd like to walk away and go back to normal life, we can't. We can't know what we know and live with ourselves. We cannot face God knowing what we know and still choose to stay silent. It's simply not possible for us. I'm not asking you to take on a lawsuit. I'm not asking you to dedicate your life to this fight. What I'm simply asking is that you give it some time, that you sit with these survivors, that you sit with the mothers, the missionaries, the bishop, the twins, the countless survivors that have come on, and you listen to their full stories. Listen to their sincerity. Listen to their suffering. And ask God for yourself if these things are true. Now, getting to what the reason I'm here. We have received a demand letter threatening us with a lawsuit. They want us to take down the show with the twins, say we were wrong, and pay them $100,000. We did take the show down temporarily, but starting right now, we are putting that show back up. We stand with the girls. We've done extensive research, and their accounts line up with everything we've seen. We simply believe them and know that their voices, and too many of their voices, have been silenced too long, and we refuse to participate in the silencing of these victims and survivors. You know, it's interesting because, especially in this church, we talk about it being the last days. And I think people in so many churches, and I think you would believe we are in these end times. But it's interesting, you know, in these end times that people can't see, even with Epstein, that we are fighting the same ancient forces that have always existed. Moloch, there has not been a time in history. Anyone who knows their history has known that child sacrifice has always gone on. There is a reason, and there is power. They for some reason, these people find power on abusing and hurting the most innocent among us. How is it possible that we live in the most biblical of times and these great evils we think are not going on, especially when all you have to do is look at Epstein, and clearly this is happening. We are here to say that this is happening. I know it's happening. I know it's happening in our backyard. And there is no price I will not pay to expose these people and protect these children. I've said it before and I'm saying it again. The line has been drawn. This is the battle. This is why we are here. This is the Savior. This is Michael versus the Antichrist and Moloch and these people who want nothing more than to enslave us. And we were not sent to sit on the sideline. We were sent to stand, sent to participate. I understand these things are hard for you to wrap your head around, especially as you get into some of the ritual things which we're going to talk about today. I understand that it is a world that it is so far out there that it's hard for us to wrap our heads around. But what I am suggesting is that the world as we wish it to be, the world as we think we know it, is not the world as it truly is. And what these survivors are doing is pulling back the veil to the real world, to the true darkness that has always been there, and exposing what is happening in our backyard. I ask as you sit down today with Amy and Josh Choate, that you listen to their full interview, that you wrestle with them, that you see the battles and the implications it's had in their lives, in the lives of their children, their sincerity. Why would anyone in their good mind, why would anyone make these things up? And I ask that you, after you listen to the full interview, because it deserves your full time, that you add that to the countless other survivors. And here's what I will tell you. While yes, there is nothing more important in this world that we could possibly know than whether or not this is going on, I will tell you this. I didn't believe it when I first heard it. I didn't believe it at all. I thought it was sensational. I thought it was politicized garbage to try to get someone out of office. But I have paid the price. I have listened. I have sat. I have wept with these incredible warriors. And I know these things are true. I know it's true enough that I cannot return and face God or myself in the mirror denying it or walking away from it. And I'm willing to pay the price that we have paid. And I'm willing to pay the price that we are about to pay. And I know it will be severe. But as you listen to the show today, since when have people ever done anything of meaning without paying a price? And I just want to thank each of you for standing, for just listening. I just thank you for just listening to these survivors. Even if it's hard to wrap your head on, even if you don't believe them, I just want to thank you for listening. We're paying a high price to have this information up there, and I believe it's worth it. And I believe it's what our Father in heaven wants and what our Savior and what Michael are fighting for. Thank you. And we'll go ahead and move into the show. And welcome back to We Are the People. This is your host, Jason Preston, with my, you want to say it? My beautiful bride, Alexia.
People get upset when you don't
Some
say
people,
it.
well,
So.
they get upset when I say it.
True.
Thankful to have her here. And I'm very thankful for who we have today. We have a couple that we've known since the very beginning. It was one of the couples that helped us understand this world.
And navigate this world.
And
too.
navigate it. But it's taken them a long time to be ready. And this is, and again, I always say God's in control because this is his fight. We are literally in the battle of good and evil, and he is directing it. He is the one who is inspiring these brave survivors to wake up, to stand, and to testify of the true nature of the battle we're fighting. And so I'm extremely honored to have them. We're going to introduce them in just a moment, but you may notice today I'm suit and tie, which I don't normally do. And that is because today I just returned from a funeral of an incredible warrior named August. And I want to take a moment to honor him. August and his team provided security for us when we were running for office. They provided security for us anytime we've needed it, whether it was doing rallies or anytime there was a question if there was a safety issue. He was that man that was always there for you. And that's the reason his life was just special, because he was the type of person who gave. He's a veteran. He was always serving, always fighting, always standing up for people. And it just so happened that we have a couple very high profile cases we're working on right now. We've alluded to that. One of these survivors has actually been in a physically dangerous situation, and we've actually had to have August involved in providing security for her. putting cameras up, doing, checking for bugs in the house, and basically make sure she's literally 24/7. We're trying to make sure she's safe because of what she has and the importance of it and who is involved. And what was heartbreaking is August passed away within a few days of starting to work and provide security for us and for this woman. Obviously, I will say this: we've done plenty of research to see if it's involved. We do not think there's any correlation, but the fact of the matter is, he's someone who gave his life in the service of others, and I think it's fairly easy to get caught up in the things in life that don't matter. Our jobs. There's so many things that pull for our attention, our hobbies. But, what truly matters, and especially being at his funeral, it just made me think, what is it in life that matters? And I think when it's all said and done, what matters is, are we giving and living our life in a way that makes a difference to the people around us? Are we making a difference? Are we doing something for a higher cause, something more than ourselves? And, that it was interesting this morning as I was watching, at the gym, I always watch, parts of Gladiator, and I watch, I'm a huge fan of William Wallace, and you just think of these men that we love, including the greatest man, the Savior. And I think the reason that hundreds of years later, as we remember people like George Washington and these great heroes, the reason that their lives echo throughout eternity is because they spent their lives fighting and serving others. And I don't know a greater cause than standing and fighting for others, especially for those who have been through horrific things, fighting for children. And so as we start today, I just want to thank each of you as I've watched those of you in the comments, and I've run into you guys in the stores, and I've run into people have emailed us. I want to thank those of you, particularly the survivors, and not, it's all of us, all of you who are choosing to stand for something that matters. And I don't know what matters more than standing for Christ, standing for God, and standing against the darkness that is ravaging our country and our state and our backyard and our children. And so I just want to thank all of you for choosing to live a life that matters, and choosing to invest your time and fight for this cause particularly, because I think this is the single greatest, the cause of our day and our time. I also want to give a really quick shout out to Michelle. She's one of our survivors. You can see her show. She is started to try to reach out to other survivors. She's created an organization called w.a.r.a.s, WARAS. She's meeting up with them on a regular basis and trying to create community for victims and survivors of abuse. If you want to get involved, if you're a survivor of abuse, you can reach out to her at her email, which is w.a.r.a.s.warriors@gmail.com. I'll put it down here at the bottom of the screen, and I'll put it in the show notes. And Michelle, I appreciate you doing that. Ashley Smith also has an organization working with survivors, and so many people are feeling called to this. And again, I believe that there are so many of you. This is God's fight. This is a time I believe people have looked forward to since the dawn of time, and God uses regular people to do His work. And those regular people are people like you who are all stepping up into your purposes. And so, as we welcome our incredible couple here today, I just want to thank all of you who are standing and doing something and getting involved. And last, please make sure if you're not subscribed, go to our website, weirdpeople.org, subscribe so that we can send you the newsletter in case we get shut down or censored. With that being said, Alexia, let's talk about our guest, Amy and Josh Choate.
Sure.
Why are you excited about them?
So it's probably been about, I'm going to totally fall in a time warp here, a year? 2 years.
Probably 2.
I was going to say 2 years, but I was like, there's no way.
Time flies when you're, I don't say having fun, because it ain't been fun,
It's
but
not
when
quite
you're
fun.
engaged in serious work.
Although we have been able to to have and foster some really great relationships, including present company today. So I think this was probably a pivotal moment in our journey in understanding SRA and in hearing Amy's story, because it was the first knee-jerk reaction for me was like, this can't be true. These stories are just like larger than any movie, any script, any book you could ever put together. Could they possibly be real? And the more survivors we met with, and the more we heard your story, and the more we got to know both of you, and the more we realized not only is this real, but this is everywhere. It's in our backyards. It's infested our state. It's infested our politics. And I think Amy's story is an incredible one because it weaves it all together. And it's made sense of a lot of things for me, and especially Josh's involvement in it as well, even not having been through such horrific things. But it's also the importance of a relationship of husband and wife and what you can do together to help heal and help learn and help guide each other through these incredible memories and processing memories. So it's an incredible testament not just to you for what you've been through, but also to both of you for help navigating through it together.
Well, Navo actually alluded to their story a few times throughout the past year because their story has had such a profound impact on me. We've sat in their home. We've broken bread with them several times down in Spring City.
Quite literally.
Literally, which we'll talk about that at the end. But to hear their stories and hear Amy's story and to see how it affected her husband and her children, this is a story that will have a profound impact on you as you sit and listen to what this beautiful family has endured and overcome. It's a beautiful story. Because it has the polarization of both great tragedy and great beauty. And so I'm just honored. I have been so looking forward to this. And I'm very honored. So Amy, Josh,
thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. That was very kind.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's always it takes a lot of bravery to come forward and tell your story. And I know this has been a struggle for you to get there. So I won't make light of that, but just we'll take this at your own pace, however you need.
So Josh, Amy, do you mind if we start with your background? Like, would you might like to start with your
Sure.
childhood, or where would you
Sure.
like to start?
It makes the
today?
most sense to go chronologically. So let's start there. So I'm Amy. My whole childhood was in Heber Valley, Utah. I'm the 7th of 9 children, and I was raised in a very happy, just healthy home, very cheerful mom, and my parents were, thank you. My parents were one of those backbone families in the ward, and just really, really amazing people. Really, my dad taught me a lot about listening to the spirit, really listening to that inner voice and trusting it. And that's what this journey has been, is listening to that inner voice and trusting it. So very, very Mormon family. Every FHE, every Monday, we never missed church. Very, family scripture study, just all the things, and family dinners every night. Sundays were like it's a Sunday ritual. Family dinner is just a big deal together, everybody around the table, and just really a very happy home. When I met Josh, I described my childhood as romantic. It was a very romantic childhood. So my childhood was very typical American childhood. Lots of activities, dance, gymnastics, music, just all the things. And school was important to my parents. And so we always did our homework, very academic family, jumped all those hoops. And I had a really huge fear of getting in trouble as a kid. So I was very behaved, just really good girl. And something that really stands out to me about my childhood is I was a very good girl. I remember my 8-year-old baptism very clearly. And I've talked to Josh about his baptism, and it's just kind of a meh. And my baptism was really significant. I knew I was committing to Jesus. I knew I was making a covenant to follow him. And I had a really impressive spiritual experience at my baptism. So it really put me on this trajectory of, I really want to be with Jesus. That kind of, as we talk some more, that got twisted a little bit through some of the abuse, but we'll move on from that. So I just was a really, really involved kid. And by the time I got to started piano, this is big because music was a really, really big part of my life. I started piano at 8 with a neighborhood teacher. And by the time I was in 6th grade, I started taking with my sister, who was a BYU piano performance major. And she gave me really exceptionally hard repertoire. And she really stretched me. And so by the time I was in high school, I knew I wanted to do music. I knew it was, I loved music, but I knew it was my life. So by the time I was in my senior year of high school, I was very music driven. I did sports and I did all this stuff, but music was my first passion. And I was taking with a really amazing teacher in Provo who was of great reputation. And she got me into BYU, and I started my life as a piano performance major at BYU. BYU is pretty tough. And after that first year at BYU, I was like, I'm not cut out for this. This is too high strung for me. So I still love music, but I kind of I stayed in the music major, and I just really pursued jazz because I'd done jazz all through high school and done jazz music camps. And I found that jazz was just the perfect fit. It was very creative, more easygoing, but also very intellectual. So I really pursued that. And my first indicator that there was ever something wrong with my life actually came from my jazz piano teacher at BYU. He was not LDS, and he was a really good mentor to me. He found me all kinds of gigs and really got me involved. And one day I just remember talking to him about something at one of my piano lessons, and he was like, Amy, that's not normal behavior. And we were talking about my sleep patterns and just some of my lifestyle. And I was like,
be specific. What wasn't normal behavior?
Just my absolute drive. Like I was so type A. I was so driven to achieve. And I was talented, but I wasn't, you show up at BYU, I was a small fish in the ocean, where in high school I was a big fish in a small pond, right? So I was I was willing to do whatever it took to climb. And that would mean waking up at 2 a.m. to do homework. I'd go to bed at 10 and wake up at 2. And I was just constantly driving, just this real drive. And Josh noticed this pretty quickly.
So you had met Josh at this point, or you mean later, but Josh noticed it?
No, later, much later.
Okay.
Steve was just the first person to point out that some of my lifestyle, my sleep patterns, kind of my excessive behavior was abnormal. And
Did he think it was tied to abuse, or he just said there's something
No,
weird?
He was just like, that's kind of weird.
Okay.
You should try to find some balance, And my roommates noticed it too. I had really great roommates at BYU, just really beautiful girls. And we were together for a long time, for a number of years. And they noticed I had weird sleep patterns, weird, excessive, out of balance habits. No one had ever pointed that out to me before. I was aware in high school I pushed really hard and I didn't get enough sleep, but I didn't know why. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know what was under it. Yeah. So I just did all the jazz stuff, and I was the first jazz recital at BYU. It never happened. There wasn't a jazz major, just kind of a jazz program with side classes. And that recital actually shaped the jazz. It informed the jazz major. So I was really involved in the music scene and specifically jazz. And when I turned 20, I got into a relationship that was really unhealthy, and it took years. It takes years to recognize that sometimes, but it was not a good relationship. And I think things kind of started to unravel there. I started to just, it was a lifetime of abuse, but it was all hidden. I didn't know. It was totally camouflaged between, just a good family and church and all these pursuits. I didn't have any way to see it. So when I met this guy and we started dating, just little red flags all over the place. And I tried to break up. It didn't work. I tried to break up. It didn't work. And I just said, okay, I'm going to go on a mission. So I went on a mission to Roseville, California, and I spent most of my mission in Northern California, which is the Roseville mission, but that was the Mount Shasta area. And
Hotbed.
yes, very coincidental, right?
Yeah, we got red flags going right. That was my question. Was just about to say, where'd you go on your mission? Was there anything on your mission? But not
yeah,
yet. Already getting the answer there.
There are memories at the Shasta facility which rocked my world when I came across those. But we'll save that.
Get there.
And I was still struggling in this relationship with this guy, even though I had gone on my mission. And it was just really difficult. So I went, part of the difficulty is I entered the MTC on September 6th. And that's the beginning of ritual season. Fall is just the worst for rituals because you have all the fall rituals. You have the holidays. You have so many holidays stacked
Halloween.
together, and specifically Halloween. And
Solstice.
yeah, I just was going. So I didn't know all this at the time, but I got into the MTC and I just was really kind of depressed. And I'm not generally as a kid, I was very upbeat, very happy. I even had people nickname me Smiles because I would just smile so much. So I just wasn't doing well in the MTC, but I didn't really want to talk to my family about it. Like things weren't good. So I just kind of willed myself forward. And then comes Christmas. And the day after Christmas, what I now know was a handler left a voice message on my missionary answering machine. And I heard the message and I just felt this shock, pure shock. And first of all, how did he get my number? Who is gonna, what? It's just really, really hard.
What do you mean a handler left a message? What?
It's someone who was a handler for me at that time, but I didn't know. So in hindsight, now that I've had memories, I know this person was my handler. But at that time, I was just like, who does he think he is calling me on my mission?
What did he say?
He just, I don't really remember much. It was just something like, sorry, I didn't send you a Christmas card. I don't remember the message.
But it was something that was acute.
But it just put me into shock.
Okay.
So I don't remember the exact message. I just went into shock.
But the message itself wouldn't indicate shock, but she felt shock at the moment she listened to it.
Did your daylight version know who he was? Or
yes, by name. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he was my handler. I just knew he was a friend and he was reaching out. And how in the heck did he get my phone number? Mm-hmm. So a common pattern is that they track you down. So by December 28th, I was in high fever and just super sick. And I spent the next 2 months crazy sick. And I had really cool Sister Walker. She was a really great companion. She would just let me sleep. And I eventually went to a doctor who tested and found out I had mono, which it was much more than mono, but that was the diagnosis they gave. And they had me on a plane home the next morning. So,
and just to clarify, during this time, this is your mission. So you're like 18, 19?
I'm 21.
Okay,
21.
so
At that time,
is this 90s?
this is 2000. I went on my mission in September of 2000. So, came home. I was so sick. Like, I didn't know if I'd live. I was not well, and I was bedridden a lot. It was a big day if I took a shower. It was just a really hard era, a lot of journaling, a lot of contemplating. And what I realized in hindsight, I just broke. It was just too much. I broke. And eventually a couple years of being sick, and then I went back to BYU, and lo and behold, they had the jazz degree. And I had one more year, finished the jazz piano. Well, it's jazz performance, but I did a jazz piano degree and graduated. Then I was headed for graduate school on a full ride to Colorado. And by a strange series of spiritual events, I was stopped and I moved to Salt Lake. My friend Alicia found me a job working with her at Dane's Music in Salt Lake. And a great job. I got to play Steinway pianos all day and sell pianos and do cool stuff with music. And that's where Josh enters the picture. So I kind of word shop to look for which word I wanted to be in, and picked the place I was going to live. And that was the singles ward where I met Josh. And I vowed I would never marry anyone from a singles ward I was in, but I was wrong. So it was a long 3 years, wasn't it, Josh? It was not love at first sight, but I knew his spirit immediately. Like, I knew him from the first second I met him, and there was something really special. And I knew it, but I fought it super hard. And we would hang out all the time, but I was always dating someone else. And sometimes we'd be friends, and sometimes we'd be friends with benefits. But I was always dating somebody else, and I was always convinced I was going to marry someone else. And so it was 3 years, and he was always there. I decided to pursue more jazz. In this era, it was really fun because I worked a music job by day, and then I was gigging 2 or 3 times a week at night. And so it was music all day, music all night, music all day, music all night. It was just a really super fun era, and very carefree. And Josh was super fun. We'd go do fun things together, and he just couldn't convince me to marry him. Like, he told me he loved me pretty early on, and I was like, you don't even know me. How can you tell me that? I mean, it was just very awkward.
So how old are you now?
I'm today.
No. At this time.
Oh, I'm like today.
When you guys were dating.
I met Josh when I was 24.
Okay.
I was 25.
And I was almost 28 when we got married, and he was 28.
Okay, so at this point in your life, when Josh is asking you about your childhood and about your life, in your mind, it's this idyllic,
yes,
perfect.
Yeah, very structured, very romantic, idyllic. And I don't mean this to sound negative. It's very different from my family. So her family, they all feel this way about their family. And sometimes it makes me wonder, but it's very distinct culture in their family.
Kind of the perfect Mormon family childhood.
Well, they feel it, and they work hard for it. I mean, it's important to them to honor the community, to show up, to work hard. You do your stuff, whether that's church or
you check
school.
The boxes, and then you go the extra mile.
You check the boxes.
And it
sure.
sounds to me like it's sincere.
It is.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, like very sincere. But definitely, everyone who knew me, was definitely a Molly Mormon, and I came from a Molly Mormon home. You know?
So this is important because this is, and we have our listeners at all different places. Some of them this may be the first time they learn anything about, ritual abuse. Others have taken time to invest to understand this world. But for those who are new to it, what on the surface, from your daylight version in your conscious mind, you had this idyllic family life. It was beautiful. It was perfect. It was by day, everything that the perfect Mormon family. But what we're going to find out by night is that there was very different things happening.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's kind of what you saw too. Everything's kind of on, all the boxes, everything perfect.
Yeah. I mean, it was two things at the same time. There was, for me, we fell into like a best friends relationship easily. It was a very deep, real relationship. But there was that side that I could not figure out, that, like what, such an easy, good relationship, but any idea of it going somewhere, there was a wall, and it didn't feel natural. It was very confusing. It's like, don't spend all this time with me if you don't like me. And she would always come back, I like you, but we're not dating. We're not,
When did you start to see, so everything's perfect? At what point does it go from this perfect relationship to all of a sudden you start to see, and what led to that?
Let me clarify your question. You're asking,
where does it go from, all right, we've got this perfect relationship, perfect history, like everything's perfect, like what everyone saw on the outside. At what point do you start to see, wait a minute, there's something else, and what led to that?
Okay. So I'll get to that, because that did not come. Well, it entered at the marriage. So, right at the very beginning, because I was just super dysfunctional. Maybe adult content here. I was very dysfunctional sexually. So right out the get-go of the honeymoon. But it took time. I kind of want to back up though really quick. Yeah. Just to bring this full circle, because there's some really important things that we're missing in our history. Really quick. So I met Josh in East Mill Creek. We knew each other for 3 years. That whole time I had very wealthy, much older men, mid-40s, late 40s, asking me to marry them, promising me the world. Later, I would have memories with men trying to handle me. Potential arranged marriages. One for sure that I am dead sure was an arranged marriage attempt. And so this whole time I know Josh, and I have all these other things going on, and Josh is like the steady guy. I moved to New Orleans to take a job, to study jazz piano. He flies out. He's like the calm in the storm. Come home, get sick of dating, and it literally is an act of God that we got married. Literally. Because I did not, in hindsight, I know this now, I did not, it was like a bang on the head, like marry him. Yeah. It was a commandment to marry Josh.
Because it's very common for them to try to set you up with someone else to keep it in the family, to keep it going.
Right. So the first step out, the best thing I ever did was say yes to Josh, because he's not in the system. He was the wild card. They did not see that coming.
And it couldn't have happened without the Spirit. Probably not time to go into that night, but it was basically at a moment when I was fully, completely reconciled with not dating her. It was going nowhere, and I hadn't seen her in months. And we got engaged that night. And it was not...
Neither of us planned it.
I just felt very, very powerfully, it's time for you to ask her to marry you. And it terrified me to the core. I knew she would be upset if I brought it up, which is exactly what did happen. And so we both were very aware that it was an arranged marriage, but it was arranged by the Lord. That wall was impenetrable. I had tried for years, and I had gone to the bishop. I had had counsel. It was like, move on. It's not going to happen. And I was really pursuing other options as best I could. And then we got engaged one night, and it was very strange. I mean, I want to say it was great. It was romantic. It was strange. And afterward, I freaked out because I'm like, what is going on? I want to marry somebody who wants to marry me. I want it to be romantic. I'm engaged to this. I really love Amy, but the way that came about was not me, and it was not her.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Okay, so I didn't have the capacity to choose for myself. I would have picked a handler. I would have picked, my friends are even like, when Josh would come around Dane's Dane's Music where I was working, they'd be like, finally a good guy, Amy. And here I am, this Molly Mormon girl dating not so nice guys. And anyway, so we get married. And again, that's a whole episode unto itself, how that happened. But we get married. We moved to Logan.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
The first time I really noticed the intensity that she brought up earlier was when we were engaged. I was finally thinking, now it's official. Now we can actually date and take time to know each other at this level. And she was an unstoppable machine of ambition. You must do all these things for the marriage. And I mean, I think a lot of women feel that, but this was on a level of like, I mean, at one point I said, the week before I said, could we please just say what we've done up to this point is enough and just take 1 week to think about what's happening? And her reply was, absolutely not. You will not take this from me. We will do these things. And she had a huge list of all the things that had to be done for it. And at the time, I just thought I must support my bride. I must just go along, and that's my duty. In hindsight, as a more mature person, it's like that. None of that was an expression of me. That was a runaway train. But that was my first, just dunk into like, whoa, what is this? And then marriage happens.
Right. So we get married, and we moved to Logan. We were in Salt Lake, and then for a few months we moved to Logan. Josh is starting a technology business, and I get hired by USU to be a jazz piano teacher. And I'm also a part of like their faculty / community band. And I'm doing that for a few months. And then all of a sudden they want to do a piano featured Duke Ellington concert. If you don't know who Duke Ellington is, he is a major composer in the early 1900s for jazz, and he's this incredible pianist. And I'm the featured pianist for this concert. And I'm due with our first child 6 weeks before the concert date. This music is incredibly hard. Duke Ellington is an incredible pianist. I know I'm going to have to put in hours. And I have this internal conflict.
This is after you'd already done a big one, right?
Yeah, we'd already done.
She did a same thing already, like really ambitious solo performance.
Right, but I wasn't pregnant. That wasn't a thing. Now twist. We have a baby coming, and I'm supposed to do this huge concert. And the only way I can describe it is an internal civil war, because I've never had a baby. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, granted, I didn't know there was abuse, but I felt like I had to save this baby. Nothing would come at the cost of saving this baby. And this was my baby. But yet I had to give up music to save the baby. And music, as you're going to find out, was a program. It's like the mother program that holds all the other programs in place. It was massive. So I had to die either way. Some had to die either way. Either I was going to have to sacrifice my baby and his needs, or my music. And so I thankfully opted for music. But at that time, I was the kind of person, I was so imbalanced. It was all or nothing. There was no doing some music and being a mom. It was the beginning of my music sabbatical. I put it away completely at that moment.
Nothing.
All or nothing. And at that point, I didn't do any more gigs.
And
Nothing.
it really was insanity at that moment, because I was just watching it and I'm like, how you're going to have a baby and then pull off this performance? There's no way. There's no way you can do it. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
He didn't tell me what to do, though. He just kept trying to guide me to the thing he knew would be good. But ultimately, it was my decision. But I did put it away. So fast forward, I put that away. We have two kids, and I have to have some creative outlet. I am a creative person, and I have to have this outlet. And so I poured all that music into cooking. So we had a little yoga studio, organic herb shop and market cafe thing that we did. We wrote a cookbook that led to more culinary stuff that we're doing now, but it was good and it filled that need, but that lasted a short period. And then that was 2015. We closed that market down. Moved to Monticello, Utah. And I'm just going to go over that quickly. That was a grueling 3 years. Best of times, worst of times. Some of the best people we ever have known were in that ward, and some of the most evil people I have ever known were in that ward. That's all I'm going to say there. Then we moved back from there we moved to Arizona. We had a really integral experience in Arizona. We were there for 2 months. Josh took a job as a private instructor at a private school. Figured out within those 2 months that it was led by witchcraft, and the woman running it was a witch. And we had to haul butts out of Arizona. Took everything we had. We literally had to go through hell to get out of that situation, but it opened our eyes.
But at this point, no memories.
No memories. But all these things are happening that are setting the groundwork for us to understand the satanic world. Just really important things.
It definitely was preparation to be able to.
Yeah.
The move to Southern Utah was prompted. It was a complete random thing, but we just knew we must do this, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
And the Arizona experience was, Amy says witchcraft. We didn't going into that was not in our vocabulary. It's not something we talked about or understood. Coming out of it, there were deep questions about what had just happened. And we read scriptures and we're like, I think we began to understand what was going on around us was that. And that was one of the preparatory experiences for Amy to start coming into her memories, because witchcraft is a big part
it's a big
of SRA.
part of
it's
SRA.
a very literal thing.
Yeah, witches are real.
They're not like running around on broomsticks.
No, that the woman was 37 years old, tall, slender, long dark hair, big smile, very charismatic. I hated her. But everybody else loved her. And it was like, what's wrong with me that I don't like her? But she was a trigger. She triggered me. Okay, so fast forward, we come back, we're totally broken. We're destitute. We have no money. We're just broken spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically. We're just exhausted.
Yeah, those two moves, we lost everything.
We lost everything.
We lost not just money and assets. We lost, we didn't know how to even start over. It was so confusing. The world had just turned upside down.
Right, and
So
this is
kinda like
COVID.
this
This
is
is 2020.
you. Okay.
Yeah, COVID, 2020, right in the middle of
So you kind
major
of go
stuff.
through this rock bottom, which is clearly now in hindsight, God kind of like getting your
Yes.
attention, getting you to
Yes.
look up, and then what happens?
Was this the first time you broke together? Because I know you've had breaking experiences before on your own.
Yeah, I'd say we were both pretty broke.
Yeah, it was a rock bottom.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
What happens next?
Okay, so this is where we start. This is where the abuse really starts to come into memory. We lived with Josh's brother for a few months because we had nothing. And then we moved to Josh's mom's and lived in our camp trailers. And in 2021, I just had a major breakdown. And Josh sits me down and he says, Amy, I've been watching you for a long time now. You show signs of rape. It looks like you've been raped. And I was like, who? What? Where? When? That's impossible. And then I was like, well, there was that crazy relationship at BYU with that guy. But I mean, when we got married, I was 100% positive I was a virgin, right? I had no idea that there was anything else. I'd saved myself for Josh. And he poses this question to me, and it just starts, my mind is like, is there any possibility? And I knew because of this relationship at BYU, even though I had no memory of rape, I was like, there's a possibility there. I could have been drugged or, date rape, something. So I just kind of let that go. Then the whole vaccine thing with the church, Josh and I had pretty strong opinions about that. And the next part of the story was imperative. Josh made a Facebook post about the vaccine, and it really ruffled feathers. And we ended up meeting with our stake president, and it was a very friendly meeting, but he asked if we could continue to sustain Nelson as a prophet. And Josh, I will never forget what he said. He was like, I can sustain any man in the truth, but I will sustain no man in a lie. And that's when the stake president was like, well, it doesn't look like the church is a good fit for you right now. So I can remove your records or you can remove your records. And we were just shocked. I mean, we were true blue.
We did not go into that meeting
members
with any inkling of an idea
that was
our membership would be part of the discussion.
Yeah. So we just, that was it. We were out. And around the same time, I started having, back up, because this is super important. Since my mission, I've struggled with health. That's why we got into food and lifestyle and diet. And we had been chasing health for me for years. And I was more robust than I was doing pretty good, but I just had these mysterious illnesses. I'd have major bouts of migraines, complete migraines for days and days. And this was all since marrying Josh. I got sick on the mission, but then I was struggling to find, for the way we eat and our lifestyles, I deserved incredible health. And it was not there.
Let me clarify this.
Okay.
From the day we get married, from the day I meet Amy, there's health issues. There's big ones from her mission. That's part of how we initially got going. I would bring you water, like filtered water. And
yeah.
We get married. She was a lot more sick than what has been. I mean, it was a big part of our relationship.
I didn't do well, like any kind of stress, and I was on my down.
We're 15 years into the marriage now, and our pursuit of food was actually a pursuit of wellness for you. And that same drive, all out, read all the books, figure out all the stuff, really do what it takes. But nothing ever actually, it was supportive, but it would never get at the thing that was really, like, she would never heal in the ways that she was looking for healing.
Is this partly, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's your body's way of trying to get your attention.
Right, like the body doesn't lie. And
Body
so
keeps
I
the
was
score.
I was going after all kinds of healing modalities. I was doing internal work. It was all dancing around it. Nothing got to it.
Probably why you were obviously so against the vaccine too, because if you really study health, you realize
we knew.
Poison.
We knew can't do that.
A lot of people who value health and understand living healthy understand that these things are literally poison. And
Right.
so a lot of people had a hard time with the church when that happened.
Yeah, we definitely,
Right
we definitely ruffled feathers with that. So at the same time we were praying fervently, like heartfelt, fervent prayers. We would kneel and pray and plead for my health.
This is in a context, we're trying to start over. We're trying to figure out what happened to us, but we don't have a job now. It had all been lost, right? So we don't know how to move forward. So we're like, we decide, and we're getting closer to some of these things. So it's all kind of coming together, at least not in a way that we were sensing directly, but it was a very dynamic time. But the urgency to figure out what forward was, we started a formal prayer campaign. We prayed 3 times a day, very earnestly. We had written lists of things we need to pray over, and I was determined, like we got to stand up and move on with our lives, but we don't know how.
Yeah, you're searching for direction.
Because again, there wasn't a resolution to the confusion from everything that had happened. And so the first day I had a big list, and we prayed, and I woke up the next morning and I heard or had an impression, one thing, pray for one thing. And I took that to Amy and I said, out of everything on the list, what do you want? Like, it has to be sincere if it's going to work. What do you choose? And she broke down crying and she said, I feel like this is selfish, but if I could pick any one thing, it would be my health. And so I said, then it has to be that, because it can't be an insincere prayer. And so we started praying 3 times a day, health. And that's when it started happening.
This era started happening. And the first layer for me was unexpected. The first answer to prayer was the Lord showed me the true nature of marriage and the marriage relationship. And it freed me from a lot. It was a healing thing in and of itself. And then I started having these, and this is all at the same time, like things are boiling up, like coming to a boil with the church and the stake president. I started having these crazy nightmares, very disturbing nightmares. And I would wake up and tell them to Josh, and they really would shake me. And things I didn't understand, like real things I'd never seen. I didn't watch movies growing up. I didn't read a lot of books that would introduce any kind of weird or horror kind of thing, or it was just so out of place.
And
so
at this time, up to this moment, neither of us had heard of SRA. There was no awareness of that at all.
Yeah. So for weeks, I had these dreams, and I would just write them down, and they involved people I knew, faces I knew, and the very first one I had happened at the corner of J.R. Smith Elementary, where I went to elementary school in Heber. And I just thought, oh, the Lord is showing me this as an answer to prayer. We're doing all these prayers. Must be that we need to help someone, or my family needs help. This happened to because it was very clear it was abuse. That there was no, very clearly abuse. So I just couldn't believe it was about me. So it took weeks of getting there to be like, okay, and a lot of prayer to finally say, I think this might be about me. What happened? And it took so much courage to call a therapist, because I'm not broken, right? I'm this perfect Mormon girl who did everything right. I checked all the boxes. And even though we were out of the church, I still was a really good girl. You know, I still loved the scriptures, and I still prayed, and I still was seeking a relationship with Jesus. And so, but I broke down, and I did call this therapist. And I feel like the Lord led me to her. Absolutely. She was led. I was led to her. And I got super sick before our first session, like just hours before, like just could barely pull myself together. And Josh is like, I will get you there if I have to carry you to the car, because he'd seen when I started to get stressed out or backed up against something, I would, my body would shut down. The physical body would shut down. So we went. And
I was at a point where, I mean, she actually called. She's like, I can't go. And my response was more like, we're going to go if I have to carry you there. we have to see, we have to know,
We have
like
to
we have
pop-
to do this.
Something's
Yeah.
clearly wrong.
Yeah,
and
we
you
Yeah.
have
know
to
it.
pop the hood. Let's just
Yeah.
look.
Yeah.
So we get there right off the bat. I laid down. She's like, close your eyes. The second I gave myself space to look at what was under the hood, it was there. Things were flashing. I mean, the movies were, it's like movies in your brain.
Yeah.
They're just playing. My very first memory, Josh had known me at this point for a number of years, and we'd been married, and he would continually hear stories without a story. Like I talk about these. So the first memory I had actually was I would tell him about going to the circus with my best friend when I was 5 years old, and I don't remember the circus at all. All I remember is that my friend's uncle was sitting in the bleachers next to us, and I did not like him. He made me nervous.
And she told me that story many times over the years, and that was the whole story. Once I went to a circus, my friend's uncle was there. Isn't that weird? That's it.
Just this.
And I'd be like, no, it isn't weird. Like, you went, he was there because the part that was bothering her, what she could not speak to it, but she felt that it was weird. And so there were a lot of those kind of stories. And this first experience, all the second half of those stories came out. Those were the ones that were right at the top.
They were just at the surface, ready to just be cleaned out. So before I go further in this, I think it's really important to define a couple of things so that we're all on the same page. After having therapy and hundreds of memories, the more memories you have, the more clarity, the bigger perspective you get. You start to piece things together. And the more I understand that not all perpetrators are guilty. So you have perpetrators who are conscious. You have perpetrators who are dissociated, acting from a place of dissociation. And the reason I know that, I'm going to bring this in, is that someone has actually come to us who has awakened to their memories and apologized for raping one of my children. So, and his heart is broken. He wanted to kill himself. It's horrible. And so when you're first seeing memories, you're like, oh, they're all perpetrators. They're all evil. And then you see yourself in the memories and the things you've had to perpetrate. And you start to realize there are categories here. So
I think that's an important concept for a lot of our viewers, because we actually get a lot of fights in the comments. As awful as a fact as it is, most victims are perpetrators.
Every victim becomes a perpetrator, right?
Because it's part of how they pull you into it.
Yes.
Is from a very young age, they have you participate in the sacrifice. They have you participate.
They'll hold your hand while you're holding the dagger and make sure your hand goes down.
But I also want to clarify that I believe there's many survivors who, in their conscious mind, never have done anything. And I think that's I give them space for that, because I also understand that sometimes we do not allow ourselves to have certain memories when we don't feel safe. We don't have memories if we're still around perpetrators. Oftentimes those memories will be kept until we're safe.
Right.
And I think sometimes, and again, maybe there's some people who've been through it who never did anything, and I'm not judging, but the general pattern is that they have you abused to get you into it. And now you're guilty. You've done it. You're part of it. How dare you try to stop us? You've done it yourself. It's almost like built-in blackmail.
Well, it's blackmail, honeypots.
Well, not just blackmail, it breaks you. It's when you have to kill something or someone, a new part is often created. Like it's a control mechanism. It's not blackmail in every. It's not a lot of blackmail in my stories. It's more just like ways to control you, to break you, to program you. They instill new programs through doing this.
They shatter your mind.
They completely destroy you.
And I will say, one of the reasons I'm really thankful, especially now where this part is you, the two of you have such a incredible understanding now of your complete life, but also a lot of the whys around it.
Well,
and I
the
really
big
think
picture around SRA and
Yeah.
the way the organizations work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so. You grew up in Heber, and I just want to point this out because we have another show that may come up, probably will come after this. I can't tell any details because it needs to come out when it needs to come out, but there's a show that is coming out, that's already been filmed, that is focused on Heber. And what I'm learning is Heber is a massive hotspot for this, which I did not know.
Yeah. Well, Josh, do you want to speak to that for just a minute? Because this has come up a lot for us.
Absolutely, but prompt me a little bit better what you're
Okay,
getting
so there are hot spots for this. Absolutely.
Like everywhere.
But
Everywhere
what
you
we
seem to
have
go,
moved,
too.
it's either following us everywhere we go, or it is literally
Pulling you to.
either really the truth is it's everywhere. And there's something here. I will say names today, but I'm going to withhold some names because I hesitate, because people will be like, oh, you lived in Spring City. That's a dangerous place to live. And I think everywhere we've moved, we've been married 20 years, and every ward we've lived in,
Pleasant Grove, Provo.
it's everywhere, guys.
Everywhere.
So when I say a
Arizona.
name, oh, so-and-so, oh, well, we're safe because we don't live in Spring City, or we don't live in Heber, or I'm like, that's not how it works. Do you understand? You are not safe anywhere.
Yeah.
You can't just think you're safe because you don't live where I'm talking about or what other people are talking about.
Yeah, this has permeated the entire
It
state,
Yeah.
and much of the
And
nation.
also, as we know it, specifically in Spring City, there's like a civil war going on there. There's a lot
Yeah.
of really great people in Spring City.
We lived in Spring City. I think that it was
Well,
awesome.
I mean,
it's one of my favorite
let us-
places to live.
Just say this has brought a much deeper understanding of the wheat and tares parable than I would have ever guessed, than any of us would have ever guessed. But when you reread some of these key sections of scripture, it's right there. But because we had no conception of these things, or no, that's impossible, things like that can't be, and then they are, your life experience opens your eyes, and you go back and you read, you're like, well, that's the first comforting thing that comes out of this, is when you go back to scripture. The Lord was aware of this and spoke to it, because if he wasn't, that's a big problem. And so when you get that, you're like, oh, well, he knew, but we couldn't see that yet, but we're having our eyes open.
Yeah, when you reflect back in the scriptures, you see it in retrospect.
Yeah.
So now we're getting into
The memories.
the memories, and now you're starting to piece your world together. I would love for you to share what actually was going on as you started piecing these memories together. You talk about music playing a big role.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about now what you've come to understand was really going on, the night side version. And to make that easy for our listeners who are new to this, there's the conscious side, and then the abuse is usually so horrific, which you'll hear, that it fractures the individual in a way that they don't remember it. That as if it's not even happening. So what was really going on as you grew up?
Okay, so my very first memory, it was like a bull out of the gate. I mean, it was just there. We were leaving the circus, and we weren't going home with my friend's parents. We were going home with my friend's uncle. And we get to the car, and this is all, I don't remember any of this until the floodgates open. We get to the car, and he pulls my pants and finger rapes me. And then he throws me in the back seat of the car, and then we start driving east on the highway into Heber. So I was sure in my mind we were going to go towards the elementary, because so many of my nightmares had been towards the elementary and at the elementary school. And we didn't. We turned right and went towards Granny's, which is a shake place in Heber. And we went into Granny's, and my friend and I were there with her uncle, and there were a lot of men there, and I could see dark. Like, they just looked like darkness. And I think that's probably how children see. They can see good and bad better than adults. So I could just see they looked like kind of dark men, and I was really scared. And we get our shakes, and then next thing I know, the lights are out, and there are candles and deep scarlet, kind of a burgundy color robes, hooded figures wearing these robes. And I'm just watching this play in my mind, and I'm thinking, oh man, because this is my first memory. I'm like, it's real. It's real. This is like, I can't make this stuff up. So the county sheriff at the time welcomes everyone to the meeting and announces that he's brought a special performance for the evening. And yeah, a special guest. And he it's pretty horrible. I am told that there's this whole ritual that happens. It's kind of hard to talk about, but I'm forced to perform oral sex on all the men, and they call that playing the music. So I am to perform for them. And these are all words that are in my psyche all the time as growing up in music world. So very quickly I see that sex is music, or music is sex. So I was living in this hamster wheel of program. The mother program was music, and all the musical language is wrapped and twisted into sexual things. So
explains
and
why
then
the music industry is so warped.
Yeah. So, and obviously I have to say pretty much at every ritual there's rape. So, I'm raped and I have to perform oral sex, and
how old are you at the time?
5.
And that's your first memory that you
And
had.
that's the very first memory. I actually have memories before that. This was the very first memory that came. And so it was the other things that they would say. They took a dagger. So there was a child sacrifice actually at this event.
And this was in Granny's?
In Granny's, yeah. What I didn't understand that in this memory, but I've come to see the patterns enough that I understand. What I saw in the memory is what a child would have, they would have either told a child, or it would have been too much for me to perceive as a 5-year-old. I saw a pumpkin get smashed and Skittles come out. And then I heard a child crying. And the pumpkin was smashed with the dagger. So now I've seen enough to understand what that really was. And the dagger, it's interesting because they're different kind of daggers, but this one was specifically a silver blade, and it's kind of a curved dagger. And they would, after I had to perform my music, they each took that dagger and they sliced just a tiny bit and drew blood, and then they'd suck it up and then spit it into a bowl. And then they anointed me with all of the men's spit and blood to be an instrument in their hands. So, and this phraseology happened a lot. It was a program. They were instilling and what I know is that this, I had sex training, like, much younger than this, probably 3. I was 5 then. 3 and 4 years old, I have memories of actual training where they put like a prosthetic penis in your mouth, and they put like a juice in, and it's like there's like a drug, and it kind of induces this joy. So there's so much training around music and sex and music and being an instrument and performing. performance in my mind just always meant if I didn't perform, and this is where the intensity came from, that intensity that my BYU instructor, my jazz piano teacher noticed, if you don't perform, something's going to die. But the truth is something always dies. You never perform well enough. It's always a lie.
See, this is important because the more I understand this world, especially you look at Hollywood, you look at the music industry, you look at that, even I'm starting to understand a lot of these high profile athletes. They come from this world of this ritual abuse. And so what you're saying is it is perform, whether it's music, whether it's your sport or your sexual, if you're a sexual deviant, and you perform or something.
It's you're saving a child, you're saving an animal. There's an unknown pressure in there that you have to perform or else something X will happen.
Well, and then the surge of adrenaline because you're in constant fight or flight survival mode.
Yep.
So that gives you almost superpowers.
Yeah, no, Josh was amazed at how long. I mean, I could sit at the piano for 8 to 10 hours the month before my recitals at BYU, and you will hammer those keys until you have it. Like it's hyper focus ability because someone's life is on the line.
That's when she was about to give birth. She's still doing that. And that's why I was like, you can't do both. You can't have a baby and be that intense. And so I wasn't trying to control her. I was just trying to say, there's no way both of these can happen at the same time. Not the way you're approaching it. It's a non-starter. Like the last one was pushing it, but this one, like you're having a baby. There's
this really fascinating movie that's come out recently. It's called Him. It's
about the football player that took the knee.
And no, it's called Greatness Demands Sacrifice.
Yeah, it's about the one football player that took the knee, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll put the screen up there, but it got so much satanic imagery in it, and I truly believe that that's Hollywood showing this. Greatness requires sacrifice.
Not just showing it, communicating to all the victims.
And these victims, it is literally, and I believe this is the key of Satan's world. The key, sacrifice is part of God's world, right? Sacrifice a broken heart, a broken spirit. Sacrifice is the real principle. It always has been, and there's righteous sacrifice for God and sacrificing of good heart and love, and the adversary does it too. And it is very evil. It is an inversion of it, but there is no question. And I think you see so much of this in the music industry and I think I want to hear your thoughts about the music industry because I know the music industry in Utah and in this world is saturated with this darkness. And Lucifer, isn't he one of his things like something with the music? One of his titles to have to do with music, Lucifer? I swear
that's new to me, but I do know. Well, like that movie, you talk about that. The hard thing for people who are not awake to their abuse, they're still in a dissociative state or they're able to be dissociated. You have all those parts inside of them who respond to that movie. Their core self is like, oh, it's just an interesting movie. But you have all these parts that are put right back in line after they see that movie. If you're on your way out or you're starting to wake up, there are so many programs, movies, phrases. I mean, just the song, it's a primary children's song. There's so many songs, so many phrases. Like even the phrase sacrifice brings forth the blessings of heaven from the hymn.
What about
that used to really get to me.
That would get her.
Reprogram, pull you back.
Yeah, it's a reprogramming. We got to keep.
It's a program. That one, one day I'm like, wait a minute, does it? I scoured the scriptures to try to make the case that sacrifice brings forth the blessings of heaven. It's not a message in scripture.
So,
but it is a mantra. Like you don't question that, of course. For me, it was already a mantra because I heard it a lot. But for her, it was a program.
Yeah, interesting. Because I do believe there is a clear principle of sacrifice. Again, duality, and I think you can. There is there's things God uses and there's things that Satan does the exact opposite, but used as the same power for light or dark. It depends, what are we sacrificing to? Is it sacrificing towards light or towards darkness? But there's clearly, obviously, like this movie and your life and in the cult, sacrifice is very real.
Well, here's something I have to add. Sorry, Alexia, do you want to go?
Please.
The only thing in Scripture that God requires is the sacrifice of a broken heart and a contrite spirit.
Right.
And the heart is the only. Can I read something? This is
please.
so important. After one of my memories, and I have so many memories, we'll see which ones I get to, but I had just had what I called, I had just what I call the bonfire memory. We'll get to that. And it was May 21st, 2022. And I had seen that they're able to control, they program your whole body to respond. They could program me to be sexually aroused. They put lots of shots. They'd give me shots in my armpit because I was starting to really excel in sports. And that was not the trajectory. I was to perform music. Music was and so I struggled in sports with things sometimes because my arms just I didn't have the power. And there's other reasons they did that too. But the one thing I started to see was that, you know that hymn, Come Thou Fount? Here's my heart. Oh, take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. I started to realize something, and this is what I wrote. My heart pumps for the Lord. I live for him. But everything else in my body is programmed for Satan. So there's a painful clash. And it's like you want to love the Lord, you want to serve him, and yet you have all these programs running that just keep you broken. So it's the heart, the sacrifice. The Lord wants a broken heart. He wants you to need him.
And it's when you read the Hamblin victim statements, which I would really encourage. Again, people want to know, how do you know it's real? You know what? Anyone who's willing to take the time can know this is real. And one of the things I think everyone should do is read the victim statements from the Hamblin girls, because it talks about this. They do such a great job talking in detail like you do. And one of the things they talk about is how they'll use hymns and primary songs in the rituals. And so they'll be listening to these primary songs that I grew up with, very filled with light. And yet while they play that music as they're doing horrific things. And so it twists things in these kids.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Okay, for example, the song, Jesus said, love everyone, treat them kindly too. When your heart is filled with love, others will love you. Let's go to a different memory. Where a false Jesus told me that love hurts. Love is pain, basically. So if they inflict pain on you, that's love. So when you're thinking, it's so confusing. Jesus said love everyone, but the way Jesus loves you is torture and rape and abuse in these false memories. So I'm going to go into that. Okay. So I was at, again, the same circus best friend's house for a sleepover. And I was 7 or 8, I want to say. And her uncle came and picked me up and took me to the Provo Temple. So Heber's not far from the Provo Temple. And I was a temple worker in the Provo Temple. I spent so much time at the Provo Temple. It's not an area I know. It's an underground area because I didn't recognize it, but I definitely knew it was the Provo Temple. So they took me in, and this one there were so many parts to this one, but because there's so many parts, I kind of took notes. So there were 2 altars, and they were adjacent to each other, and I was tied to one, which is funny. They didn't need to tie me because they drugged me, and I was so drugged I couldn't move anyway, but I'm tied to one altar, and then they have another altar, and there's a tiny infant, tiny baby infant. And I don't remember seeing the infant killed, but I remember the dagger. It was a gold swirly same kind of dagger from the 5-year-old circus and Granny's memory. But they just mutilated that baby. And so I'm seeing this and it's horrible. And and then I see this, I'm on this table and I've just witnessed this. And I have to add this one thing. I don't fully understand this yet, but the head of the baby was very odd. It wasn't it looked human, but the head was just weird. And so I don't know if there was like cloning or weird. I don't know. Experiments. Yeah, I'd have to say it was like an experimental baby. And I don't want to describe it more than that. I can see it in my head. But anyway, so then I'm tied to this table and I'm deathly scared. I just watched them mutilate this tiny infant. And in comes, I'm laying on the table and peeking over me is a Jesus. And he looks so much like, I can't watch The Chosen because he looks so much like the Jesus in The Chosen. Oh, and I'm like, oh, it's Jesus. Thank you. You know, I'm all excited. And then he starts saying boo and walking around the altar, taunting me and telling me just like laughing, like a weird evil laugh and come up and say boo again and taunt me. And I'm freaked out. It's just horrible. And then he takes the dagger and this is pretty miraculous. I'd say it's not pretty miraculous. It's totally miraculous. My life was totally saved that day. He takes the dagger and after taunting me and just confusing me for a bit, takes the dagger and he holds it over me. And I feel this hand go over my neck. And I don't want to look. I don't know who it is. I'm just scared to death. I don't know. My eyes, I think my eyes were probably closed and I was seeing with spiritual eyes because I just felt a hand cover my neck. And I heard the dagger hit the altar to this side, and then this side, and then this side. And I was just like, oh, they're just trying, you know, I'm trying to make sense of this. Oh, they're just trying to scare me. They're just trying to scare me. But I just consistently felt this hand over my neck. And I know my life was saved that day. I was meant to be a child sacrifice. And there's a million ways they could cover that up, you know? So Jesus, this false Jesus, he's really angry. He does not like this. They take me off the altar and they strap me to like a rolling metal table. And he tortures me. They put blocks of nails up against my feet. They just push really hard, not enough to go in, but hard enough to create real distress. And he's slapping my face. He's punching me, and he gets a belt and he starts whipping me. And he gets so angry, and he starts saying things like, "Love hurts, Amy. You'll hurt the people you love, and they'll hurt you because love hurts." And he's just instilling in me that love is not what love really is. And then he takes the table I'm on and he just flings it across the room really hard. And I hit my head so hard. And this memory came in an era after my first session with my therapist. She went out of town. And that next day I had 5 weeks of like crazy migraines hit. It was all flooding out. My body was just trying to release everything. And so for those next 5 weeks, we did sessions. Josh just took a pen and a paper, and for hours, at minimum 2 hours a day, sometimes 6 hours a day, he would just write. I closed my eyes and whatever came into my head, he just write. So out the 2 months in, after my first session, we already had memories and memories and memories. So here I am,
it's almost like
having migraines. Yeah, it was like literally the floodgates opened and it was like blah, memory vomit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But your body purging the poison.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. So
there's also we didn't know if she would make it.
I thought I would die. I thought I would die.
was
The
really
pain was
bad.
so significant. I wished to die, actually. It was so excruciating.
So this is a world that is so foreign to the rest of us that it's like hard for us to wrap our head around this. And just like it's got to be hard for you to wrap your head around it. Josh, when she starts having these memories, how are you, what's going through your head?
It was a complete reboot on a lot of, I mean, I feel like I'm a guy who thinks a lot about things and observes.
You believed her right away?
And I have like a sense of what's going on. And yes, I do believe it because one, it answered a lot of things right away. Like everything started making sense. All of these anomalies we tried to speak to in the lead up, it was like, oh, yep, this is the only thing that could explain some of these things. Okay, so, and I don't know if there will be a more shocking moment in my life from here on out. That first memory, that first session, we went in with basically a sure spiritual knowledge that Amy had been abused and that it had a satanic nature to it. But we didn't understand really what that meant, but we had seen a little bit online, the spiritual experiences, the dreams. It was like, that's what that is. And, but it was like detective work, right? And just really looking granularly at everything and be like, okay, yeah, it all fits. Well, that first session, she, at that time, our therapist liked to do like just kind of like a countdown, relax, breathe. I'm going to count down. And when we get to 1, put yourself where you need to be. That would be a typical approach with her at the time. And she gets to 6 and Amy's like, stop counting. It's all coming out. And she puts out, I think it was 4 or 5 memories. I was it's very illegible writing. I was trying to write down every word she was saying, but it really was like the floodgates opening. It was like at last, like we got there. Like I mean, even though it was like negative in a sense, it was almost like an angel appearing because you've known, you felt for so long, and suddenly it's just all coming at you and it's real. So I wrote all that down. She drops 4 or 5 memories, and then it was like a roller coaster from there on out. Then very next day, she's in a physical illness crisis. Like
I went straight into physical crisis.
She's screaming in pain. And I don't know that it happens this way for everybody, but this was how it was for Amy. And I'm freaking out, like, because I don't know what to do, and there's no doctor for this. And I called the person who had helped us and just, here's what's going on. What do we do? You got to come save us, And she's like, I'm out of town. I can't. And but she said, you were there, right? You saw what I did, took notes. I'm like, yeah. She's like, do that. Get your notebook out and start writing it down and work through what's trying to come out. So from that moment on, like that was the only thing, the only tool that we had at the time was like, I mean, I don't know that this is even like the best way, but we were in crisis, and the only way we could deal with the crisis was to try to go in and see what was causing it. And little by little, it was very painstaking, but she would describe it all, memory after memory after memory after memory. And the other really interesting thing about that time was one of the proofs early on to me was she would start to say something and my mind would think, oh, so this and this will then happen. And she would take it a completely different direction that would shock and surprise me. Like, there's no way I ever would have guessed that, imagined that. There's no way she could have ever, like, I've seen movies, I've been exposed to a lot of stuff. She doesn't watch movies, period. She doesn't watch anything. She doesn't expose it. Like, she does not know anything like that in her conscious mind. And out is coming the most crazy things that you could never imagine, but do make brilliant sense. Like, oh, that would work. That would shatter a person. That would explain how that something like that could happen. Like it. So you're getting this baptism of fire into the dark satanic world, and what's in it, how it works.
They're probably the most disturbing endocrine disruptor, and this is something we should all be looking at, is atrazine.
What is atrazine?
It's in the water. It's a pesticide. They took atrazine and they put it in a tank with 40 frogs. They put it below the exposure levels that EPA considers acceptable to humans. They were all male frogs. 30 of those frogs were chemically castrated. 4 of them turned into females and produced fertile eggs.
Toxic herbicide found in many Texans' drinking water. That's from 2018, November 20th.
And we're subjecting our children to exposure to that every day. You know, what does this do to sexual development in children? Nobody knows, because we know what it does to frogs.
You guys have seen our shirts we put out there, trust God, not government. I don't think there's been a time in history where the people could trust the government. Benjamin Franklin tells us that there's been an eternal form of warfare between the rulers and the ruled. That is why our founding fathers created a constitution, because they knew you could not trust people in power. It's naive to think that we can just sit back and naively trust that our government is taking care of us, that they are going to take care of your health, especially when you understand the pharmaceutical industry and how they profit and benefit off us being sick. How many people do you know that can no longer get pregnant? There is something going on. I have people very close that I love that cannot have children. The first place I look is at water. And that's why I appreciate people who are talking about this. That's why I am talking about this. And I'm going to keep talking about it, because this is something I believe in. I talk about things I can believe in and that I do believe in. I'm passionate about what I care about. I believe that we need good water. I believe this water is poisoning our children and poisoning us. Please make sure you have a system, whether it's a whole home system, whether it's just something under the sink or something for emergencies. Go to our website, wearethepeople.org, and check out Century. It is not just a purification system that bleaches with salts everything out of the water, because guess what? You need minerals. You need the high alkaline water. You need the oxygen, and it is oxygenated water. It is healthy water. So please, I do plead to you, make sure you are not having this water pumping through your house. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate all your support, and just have the greatest respect for all of you. Thank you.
So a lot of the times, and you've alluded to this earlier, that there's fracturing that's intentionally happening to create parts. Do you meet any of your parts as part of these memories that you were having, or how did this come to you? Were there any particular parts that played a role in your awakening?
Yeah, early on, I had kind of a symbolic visual. I wouldn't say it's not a memory. It was just an experience with this hardened, super hardened, really tattooed, pierced, dark black hair, like spiky hair girl. I had this conversation with her, and I was like, boy, she's been through something. Who is this? And I didn't know what to do with this conversation, because a lot of times when I'm processing something, I've learned to journal. I go to my journal and I say, hey, there's somebody in there who has something to say. And then I'll listen. And I write both parts of the conversation. The core me that's talking, and then the little girl that has things to say. They hurt my kitty, or and this girl had a lot to say, but I didn't know she was part of me. It took years. It took 3 years and to realize that this girl was a part of me, and she represented the hardness, the hardened version of me. And that her name was Cecilia. And so I've been able to piece it together, who she is and when she shows up. So Cecilia was trained very early. She had sex training very early, and performance training, and she only performs for them.
So did they fracture you, and they created a part, and did they actually name her Cecilia?
I don't know how she got the name. I'm assuming that they gave it to her. The name Cecilia, I was shocked when I was writing a letter, and she asked me, what does my name mean? And I was like, I don't know. What does Cecilia mean? Can we look it up on the phone really quick? Cecilia is, she is the patron saint of music.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Especially when you think about the music program.
Yes. And she danced, she sang, she acted. She was always performing.
So
That's
when they
role.
wanted this version of you, they would trigger Cecilia to come out, and Cecilia was trained to be musician, sex slave.
Cecilia wasn't really even a musician. She would sing and dance, and it was like sexual dancing and singing for their purposes and acting. Mostly, Cecilia was created for satanic movies, porn movies, and they did that through rituals, and then she was a high-ticket traffic item.
So how did they train her?
To be a performer.
Usually, well, initially they just break you, like heavy, heavy rituals. How she was trained, I think they were writing on her natural talents. But how she learned how to dance, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to dance sexually. Like this person, I don't know what that is. So when I was seeing the memories come back, I was like, where did she learn that? I don't know. I don't have that.
And it's funny because you
information
say she. So when you look back in your memory, and you see it, it's almost like not you. It's a different person.
No,
Yeah.
it even
in
looks
you.
different.
I still talk to her. She hasn't integrated fully yet. She's waiting. She's given me some things.
So
we have to jump.
So
First
what
of
are
all,
some of the things? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the first thing that she said is you have to start talking. You have to use your voice. It'll set me free, because her voice was only used for evil.
Do you have any idea what age you were when Cecilia first showed up?
Well, that 5-year-old memory at Granny's,
And the circus.
yeah, like that's her part. Sex is music. You are to perform. She was a performer. She was trained in that. Now, it wasn't just her that did that, but that was mostly her. She almost always was wearing black. She was always put in black lingerie, like always black. And she often, when I knew Josh in the early 2000s, I didn't watch TV at all, but I did watch this one movie with Jennifer Gardner called Alias. And like every episode she has a new outfit, and she's a new character, and she's going in to play these new roles. I'm like, that's kind of Cecilia. Like because when I first started seeing her in memory as a more grown woman, late teens, early 20s, I did not recognize her. The memory would come up and I'd be like, who is that? Dark black bobbed hair, bright red lipstick, dark makeup, black combat boots, black lingerie. I'm like, who is that? I don't even know who that is. And then you start to see the makeup stand, the star table with the lights around it, and they're doing your hair and they're doing your makeup and they're getting you ready. So I didn't even recognize her.
That was the performer.
That was the
side
performer
of you that was being used for porn and.
Yeah.
At one point, Cecilia said, and I think believes, but commented, I'm 70% of
She's a
of you.
huge.
She views herself, and I don't know. We don't know if how she believes that or if it's true, but that's how she perceives it. She is a very large, if not the largest element of this.
Yeah, I'll write it down. Come later. So tell us a little bit about what she went through, what you went through, and some of the experience you had.
So actually, I mean, she was a child of note. So when I was pretty young, I don't know how old, but still really innocent age where you just don't understand anything, like 5, 6, I want to say. I was taken by one of my bigger handlers in Heber, who's in the performing industry as well. He's a musician, and he was in my ward growing up.
Well-known
name in the church. He was in my home ward, and he took me to Temple Square, and there's a facility there where they for movie production. There's lots of movie production places. But there was this one specific set, and it looked like it was in a big gym. There were bleachers on the I want to say, well, it was to my right if I'm looking in. Bleachers to the right, and then there was this huge aquarium set. Huge. Like the size of a small house. Aquarium, glass walls.
With actual
and
animals.
I was in it, and all I remember, the only part of the memory I remember is Madonna was on that set, and she was in the movie and helping kind of produce it a little bit. And there was this massive snake, and it would have been like a robotic snake. But as you're having the memory, it doesn't seem like a robotic snake. You have to step back and see all the details after you felt the emotion first. You gather the basic details, and then you step back and you're like, okay, what's really going on here? I'm an adult looking in now. What really happened? So I'm standing in this aquarium, and part of the storyline is there's this huge robotic snake that comes up, comes down, and is about to eat me, and a trap door. It does eat me, but there's a trap door that opens, so it looks like it eats me, but I'm released through a trap door, and I just remember running down this hall. There's something that happened in that run down the hallway. I don't know. But then, as part of the storyline, Christopher Reeves shows up, and he is like this guy that's going to save me. And we're in a helicopter. Yes. Oh, yes, he is Superman. The funny thing is, because I'm seeing this memory, and I know what Madonna looks like, and I see Christopher Reeves, and I'm like, and he's the saving guy. He's going to save me, this child. And we're in a helicopter ride as part of the movie production. And I'm like, I know I've seen this guy somewhere. This is the adult me looking in on my memory. I'm like, I've seen this guy somewhere. Where have I didn't know. I had to ask Josh. I'm like, he's the guy that got paralyzed and he was in a wheelchair. Who is that guy? So I didn't even know. I didn't know him by name. I just knew with a face. So that was she shows up for big performances. I don't know what the purpose of that movie was. I don't know what they were doing with it. Was
it like a porn type movie, or was it?
No. If it was, I don't know. But there's another. Oh, go ahead.
He wasn't paralyzed at the time,
no.
right? So this has to be before 95. You got to.
Well, I never saw. I don't. Yeah, no, I was young. I would have been really young. So I was born in 79, so it would have been in the early 80s.
Wow, yeah, before. In his prime, really.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't follow him. I don't know.
And it is interesting. Madonna does have some history directing children's movies, or not children's, but teen comedy action type films.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
but I'm not surprised.
My memory of this one, this is not something you're going to find in the normal world. It was definitely.
This is produced for a satanic audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then there was another movie at Temple Square, and I don't know.
So are you saying that somewhere on Temple Square there's like a movie production place where they make movies?
Yeah, and I believe it is underground, except for some of them. There is a secret elevator. You have to have a key. It's in the church office building. There's an elevator that goes up. I was in a movie set when I'll tell you about this winged creature movie. But you can go up the elevator or down the elevator, but you have to have a key. And I don't think it goes to any main floor. It goes to an underground facility. Yeah. So you can't see it just by being in the building.
But this isn't just like church movies. This is specifically CSAM.
Oh, these are very satanic movies. This one that I'm going to tell you about, it's very ritualistic. So we're on a set, and when the memory comes in, you don't know where you are. You just see this thing. And I'm on an altar, and I was 4 to 6 years old at this point. I don't know exactly how old. I was pretty young. And I'm on an altar on the movie set, but I don't know it's a movie set, and I'm a child looking up, and there's this winged creature that has hair and a snout. And it's a human form, but he has a snout. And he's descending down on me, and he rapes me. And it was just so scary. And I know that was part of a ritual because I had another memory where I saw the same winged creature, and it was just a different part of the movie. But what's interesting about that one is that after that scene, I was being walked away, and there was an old man in a wheelchair, and he was holding, he had a really raspy voice. He was very old and in a wheelchair, and he was holding a mask of Ezra Taft Benson. And I remember I was like, well, that's obviously not Ezra Taft Benson. But I think they do that. They're hoping that if you have recall, that's what you're going to remember.
Wow.
It was Spencer W. Kimball, which is really interesting because Spencer W. Kimball married Camilla Eyring, who is the sister. Wait, is she the sister of George Eyring? It's the Eyring line, right? And Henry B. Eyring shows up in memories. I mean, they're all interconnected. They're very interconnected. So that's Cecilia. She's showing up for these movies. And you know how they access her? Public school. They pick her up from school and they get her to Salt Lake or get her wherever she needs to go. That's one of the main access points, but also church activities, overnighters.
How did you make sense of this as a child before waking up to this, before the unraveling, where these things were happening in school, or you just didn't have any memory of
I
them?
had no memory. I have memories where, I have one memory of being in Mrs. Duke's first grade class at J.R. Smith Elementary and just focusing. Everybody had finished their math, and I was still struggling. I had barely started my math. My page was empty and everyone was done, and I was a star student. I should have been done. And I'm you have these moments where you're just coming back in, like you're missing some time, and all you can know is you have these memories of glimpses of time, like that math moment that you're like, something isn't right here. So it's like you got pulled and then put right back in.
You know, you're telling us about Cecilia, and usually when people have named parts, we just think of them as fractured parts of you. But something came to me while you were talking, and I wonder, especially if you think about some of the potential experiments that were going on, especially on children, and this isn't do you know for a fact, I'm just more hypothetically speaking, do you think Cecilia actually could have been a real person? We've heard stories about them doing experiments even on twins, trying to see if they can see through each other's eyes and things like that. So do you think Cecilia could be something or someone that might have been maybe experimented on?
Well, experimented on for sure, but no, she's a part of me. I'm sure of that.
Know, right? If it's you, your own memory, I don't think you'd be having a memory of someone else.
I don't know. It's just something that came to me thinking it's such a distinct personality. She even has a look. She has the spiky hair.
I think that's normal. I get that from, we get that from survivors. They had these personalities, or these fractures we had, what's her name? One of their survivors who had a male fracture, and he was an actual male, but that was one of her fractures. It was a masculine.
There's a lot of hard to explain layers. We glimpse into it here and there, but there's some things. It's a satanic world that there's layers of it that if you're in this world, it's very hard to believe. Like the Mount Shasta facility, that is a very tame description of that place. It is a very weird place. And Disneyland is super weird when you get underneath it. So, I mean, so I want to validate, like, there's things that we don't know how to explain that are normal in that world. There's supernatural layers, there's demons, and it falls into a spiritual religious place. And so with a lot of those, we're like, well, we don't know how to speak to it exactly. We try to keep it in the more things that people could relate to, but there's parts to that world that are magical, mystical,
hard for people like us to wrap our heads around.
Yeah.
And you bring up Mount Shasta and Disneyland. I mean, if you go back to the show with J.R. Sweet, and you're familiar with J.R. Sweet,
Yeah.
the Mormon monarch, I mean, he goes into gruesome detail about some of the things that he witnessed there.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is Amy's completely unrelated memory of that place matching JR's descriptions very closely, like the kind of spaces she was in, what they looked like, and his
The
descriptions
chlorine
of
water,
it.
the cleaning water. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take you on too much of a
And
tangent.
okay, so I just want to throw in there also really quick. Actually, scrap that. Let's keep going.
Do you want to talk about any of your other parts or memories?
The hard thing about that is I don't always know when it's Cecilia or when it's just normal.
Okay.
I mean, I have multiple parts
Sure.
like that I can speak to, but
So how many parts do you think you have?
I don't think we've found all of them
a
yet.
lot.
When I called all my girls together, when I was like, okay, everyone who's been abused, in preparation for this interview, it sounds really strange to anyone who doesn't understand DID, dissociative identity disorder. When they don't understand it, it's like your parts, all those people, you're just one person. But when you're abused so horrifically, so many times, you're broken into all these little compartments that are lonely. They're separated. And a lot of times they're still living that. They're still living in that hell. And so when you see them, that's the memory you're catching. And you can help invite them out of that and say, hey.
And this is a documented phenomenon at this point. You can even get from the Mayo Clinic, you can get an accurate definition of what it is, how it works. The mind has been split up into individuals. They're isolated. A lot of them are very small. They just have this one experience or a limited amount of them. And that experience is their whole world. They're 5 years old and they still see it the way they did when she was actually 5 and it was happening. So there's a lot of those, and there are parts that get created incidentally that it's just part of the phenomenon. They weren't noticed or programmed. I've heard other therapists call them floaters because they're actually witnesses. And so when you dissociation at its core is it's the protective mechanism of the mind to survive a mental fracturing or something so horrific that the mind, the soul, the spirit, it can't hold it. So it takes it, it buries it. And it's intelligent in that the mind, in order to protect itself, is self-editing anything that would remind you. And like if you see something that would reveal the truth, they don't have to dissociate you after a certain amount of time. You will dissociate yourself, so you don't remember that part because you don't want to remember that part.
It's a protective mechanism.
It's protective. So people walking around out there, that's one of the questions is, well, why don't people remember more? Because their minds are editing it all out to protect their core identity. They're not ready to come into that. It will still destroy them. It's a long path and a certain set of circumstances that allows the initial outpouring and awareness. And like we tried to describe at the beginning, it was a long spiritual journey of following the Lord, not knowing why all of these things were happening to us.
It's a testament. Excuse me.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's a testament to what humans are capable of enduring and doing to survive.
Yeah.
And that is, and fracturing is one of those things that allows humans to survive horrific things that would otherwise break them and destroy them forever.
Like sacrificing of a child.
And the putting back together of it is traditionally been suppressed. The Satanists know how to do it, but they're not particularly interested in that. They want to break you and shatter you and lock that in place and keep it buried. But this is what it's like when you go back in. It's classic multiple personality syndrome. And the only reason they changed the name to dissociative identity disorder is because there were a lot of nuances to the condition that weren't just, bona fide separate personalities shoving in, and because there was like a classic perception of what that looked like. And I think the people in the industry were like, this is more nuanced than that. Classic multiple personality syndrome is like one flavor of DID. And now we're realizing there's so many other expressions of it. And so Amy has this one distinct part, Cecilia, very structured. She has a bunch of others. But her DID, and what's very typical in the LDS version of this, it's very buttoned up, it's very integrated. And after many years of living with her before we knew about all of this, and then going through the therapy and coming to awareness, I can see throughout the day, I can see different parts coming and going, making comments, getting angry, doing things, and she's all of them. It's all her, but it's scattered and shattered, but that was, to be frank, that was what saved our marriage. When I figured that out, it was like, that wasn't her, that was a 5-year-old. And that was a teenager, and that was
a little girl that just got raped.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to break this to something people can see in their own lives. When someone is abused at a certain age, their part of them it's
Stunted.
Stuck there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know some people very closely that have been abused as children, and you will see at certain times that 5-year-old come out, that 6-year-old, and you can actually tell they were abused at that age because you see them go and acting in that 6-year-old stage because there was abuse there. Yep. And it's something we all see in regular abuse, but what in ritual abuse, it is completely magnified at a whole different level.
It's a science. It's done on purpose.
Right.
It's to like, they've studied this. They know it in and out.
MK Ultra, the CIA. No, this is the Nazis.
In later, more recent eras, it's computer programmed. And so they're putting you in a machine, and the abuse and the programming is automated, and there are manuals on that version that you went through.
This is not hypothetical. This is literal.
Right.
What are the
truth.
code words in that version? How is that one work? Like
almost like the algorithms.
It's an algorithm. Yeah. So
this started with Germany. Well, at least didn't start, but it was the science part of it was. This is what they were doing in Germany and Russia, creating the super soldier, and it was putting psychological warfare. This was, what was his name? The general that was involved in that? Michael Aquino.
Yes.
Aquino was involved in psych, and this is what they're doing is understanding, because they were trying to create, just like musicians, the super soldier.
Yeah.
Can I share something interesting about your story, and then I want to come back to some of your things that blew me away? That I think would be very interesting for our listeners to understand about you.
Joseph Mengel. That's what it was. Yes.
So you started waking up in around COVID, 2021, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And at the time, all your memories are back as a child.
Are you
right?
saying waking up
To your memories. You start to have
memories
to the
is
memories.
2022.
Okay, 2022. But at the time, all this stuff is in your past as a child.
Yes.
You're married. You're living where?
In 2022, we moved to San Pete.
Okay, you're in San Pete.
Well,
But
initially Cache Valley.
Cache Valley.
Cache Valley.
And
but,
then San Pete.
But this is all happening back in Heber.
Yep.
You're out of it. You're
College,
married now.
post.
But as time goes on, as these memories start to move forward, as time progresses, all of a sudden, you're having memories of post 2022, and you're realizing that, oh my gosh,
I'm still being accessed.
I'm still being accessed, even though I'm awake and I know it's going on. And I think one of the things that you said that blew me away is at some point you realized they're even accessing your children.
Yeah.
Is this correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell us
yes.
about that? Because when we came to your house, and I hope it's okay to share this, you started telling us this, and you were telling us your boys were being accessed, and your boys even had
Urinary tract
infections because of the abuse.
Yeah, he had to have a surgery. We can't, it's not 100% positive that the surgery is because of abuse, but we are 100% positive that there is abuse. So, yeah, it started by me waking up and remembering my stuff. And then you start to look around, and I had memories. I have memories with my kids, but I was like, no, that can't be. So you kind of just shut that part off. And then when the kids start showing signs of things, you're like, oh. So then we invited some of the kids. They get really, really triggered. Like I have one child.
Sorry, just the kids have memories, but it was very.
Wait, so your kids also
Yes.
are saying they have memories?
We have two children with
Two of
memories.
them have come forward on their own, not knowing that they were victims, but then describing memories and
Rituals.
it-
They check every box.
Up to that point, we suspected, we worried, but we hoped the best. Like this didn't touch them as much. We were vigilant parents, and then that happened. Two of them in specific up to this point. One of them, it took me by surprise. I didn't know, but he started having a memory. He started describing things, and it was identical to how Amy processes. And again, we thought if anything has happened, it was a lot less. It was a lot younger. It's not. And he described a lot of abuse.
And this is without
from a young age.
And he was probably 10 at that time.
And he's not prompted.
No.
You haven't been sharing any of your stories.
Which child are we
well,
talking
I'm
about?
avoiding names, but the older one.
Oh, okay.
And it again blew my mind, broke my heart. That was the gut punch. That was the. It was one thing that this happened in the past to Amy, and we're trying to heal. If my kids under my nose.
How do you wrap your head around that as a father, as a mother, that here you are, you know this world exists, you know you were enslaved by this, and yet somehow you understand that they are still accessing you today, or as of let's just say last year.
I don't believe I'm accessed anymore.
But you
I know too
were
much.
as of maybe a year or two ago.
The last memory I have is in 2020.
2020.
But we still wonder about the kids. We've become totally. The hardest thing is someone like me, hey, let's say I was a primary teacher, which I was, or young women's leader, which I was, or all these things. And what you see here, I'm a nice person. I lived the gospel the very best I could. I was going to the temple every week. I was that good Christian. And yet, if your kids were with me and I was dissociatable, your kids aren't safe.
How do you wrap your heads around that?
Well, first you mourn, you go through the stages of grief, but you draw appropriate boundaries, and they're hard. It's hard to be in society but just be like, no, we don't do that. We can't do that. We can't go there. We can't participate in that event because we have memories that's where they got accessed last time.
But you can't put your kids in a bubble
And-
either.
Right.
So you have to pray as you go. And honestly, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some because you can't put them in a bubble.
See, and this is why, and this is one of the reasons, it's like, there's no way. I mean, like, this is why, like I always knew you're telling the truth, but when you talk about it, like even affecting your kids, like
with the same patterns.
the same patterns, and knowing, like, even after you're awake, realizing that had been happening, like, who is going to like just talk? I mean, there's no question that my heart breaks for you guys. And it's also one of the things that fuels me to fight this, because you are not an anomaly. This is rampant through our state.
We're normal.
Can I tell you how many emails I've gotten from people? I could probably pull one up about Jason. I've come to realize I don't know what to do. I'm terrified. I've realized I knew I had it in my past. My daughter came and approached me and said that I had abused her and that I was victimizing her. And I know she's telling the truth. I don't know how I'm being controlled. I don't know how I'm being accessed. She said, I don't know if I should tell the police because I know the police are in it.
Mhm.
Part of me wants to take my life.
Some police.
Some police, but this is what she told me. I don't know if I should take my life. And then boom, disappears for months. And then I get another email around, Christmas time, just terrified from this. There are people living in this nightmare of this. We are fighting real tyranny.
Well, and the truth of it all, and you've even said this, is it's happening to friends, it's happening to family, and it's happening in generations. And the church isn't doing anything necessarily to protect it, but they're facilitating it.
We were very careful. We never had babysitters. We homeschooled. We home birthed. Like, that was kind of our segment of society, right? But it was born out of a sense of there's evil in the world and we need to be really careful. But there was one place we implicitly trusted, and that was church. And as we get into the memories, we see time after time where that was a very sure place where our kids were accessible. And if you study pedophiles just generically, they place themselves where you won't suspect them. They put themselves in places of trust where they will, no way a bishop did this. No
Judges.
way the mayor. No way the
county
judge.
sheriff.
That guy's
You know?
beyond
Yeah.
reproach. It's ridiculous. Well, if you're that, then you got to get to a position like that where you cannot be questioned. And we're living in a very advanced stage of a lot of this going on systemically. And so if church is the one safe place, then that is where they will be, because the whole system depends on access to children. Without that, it ends. It falls apart. It can't keep living. So they have to have access to your kids. And I hate to say it this way, or to say it in a scary way, but they are going after your kids. And if put any one thing out there for people to remember, hold your kids close and be very thoughtful and prayerful. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. And question everybody. Because
Even people who, are good consciously.
they could be
Because if they have the programming and all that, then they can be a way that access is facilitated.
That's one of the things that's so hard is we are in this enough that I know a lot of people who are involved. And
Makes it hard to go to the grocery store.
I run into people and they know me. and they don't know that I know who they are. And on their conscious side, it's someone I like. I like them. I like what they do. I like what they stand for. And it makes it very hard because I know that there's a version of them that's, whether they're conscious of it or not, that is involved with this. And this is, I know it's hard for people to wrap their heads around, but this is why this is like, and I know it's not trying to scare people. It's just like, this is why the earth was destroyed by the flood, the days of Noah. And this is why, the earth is going to be destroyed, and why when Christ comes to clean the earth with destruction, it will begin at his house, because his house has been taken over by these people.
Yeah.
And it's not just the high and moral people. It's also the people you look up to, the people you might not even know. I mean, even as silly as it is, like when you told me the Christopher Reeve story, like he was like my childhood crush. I was like, these people, whether they're celebrities or church leaders or whatever it might be, you're like, it's impossible. That's Superman. That's our church leader. That's our bishop. But it's like that form of cognitive dissonance.
So you were also abused by some high-profile church leaders.
Yeah.
Are you willing to share?
Yeah, I want to finish that topic we were just talking about, and then we'll go to high profile. We were talking about how it's affected us as parents when we find out that something's happened to one of our kids, or they pull up a memory. This is what it feels like. I mean, there's almost no words. October 6th, 2024. I am left with the hard reality that this child has a lifetime of this crap ahead of them. So ugly, so unfair, so many concerns and questions. If this young abuser of my child could dissociate to do that to my child, and his conscious mind doesn't know, that could mean the entire world is simply evil. One dissociative act after another. It just feels so ugly, so unfair, so complicated. Oh, my sweet children who have had to suffer so terribly at the dark acts and hidden works of darkness. Oh, Lord, when will this stop so that there can be peace and healing? How do I go on and pretend to be okay and live a normal life? It's just so dark and difficult. My heart aches for my children.
Wow.
Wait, there is no answer. You give it to the Lord and you say, help. Help me. Help. Okay, so now on to...
Wow.
I think maybe a good segue here would maybe be talking about the implications and just how high this reaches in the community and in those places of trust.
Yeah, it's to the top. In Heber, it was the top level everywhere. The county sheriff's wife was a judge. So, it just kind of goes all around. But as far as in the church, I've seen 2 prophets. And
would you mind actually just sharing it? Instead of telling who and what, I would like to rather hear what happened.
Yeah, okay. So, let's see. We've talked about... There's one memory that's just, sometimes it just pops into my head because it was so, I guess it's significant. So when I was in my middle teenage years, probably 16-ish, there is a facility somewhere in Salt Lake Valley. I don't know that it's around Temple Square, but it's somewhere in Salt Lake. And it's like a vault. It's like this huge rock opening, tall ceilings, but it's all rock. And
would this be like the vaults, the church vaults?
I don't know, because I've never been there. I've never seen pictures, but it's a huge rock opening. And in the middle where I was strapped into a chair. Here and here, you have all these straps holding you into this chair. And facing a glass box, and there were 3 steps, metal steps up into the glass box. It was like a, what do you call it? Like a observation box, a control booth. Yeah. And inside the booth, there were all kinds of controls. And standing in the booth, President Nelson was in the middle. He wasn't the president at that time. And then To his right was Richard G. Scott, and to his left was Henry B. Eyring. And I will just never forget the face of President Nelson when he started the electric chair. So it's a shock torture treatment. And his face was just so contorted, and the closest thing I can think to describe him is in Star Wars when the evil emperor is like, doing this thing, but he's doing it with the controls, and he's like got this really contorted face, but I didn't see it for long because the shock was they just kept upping it. And the shock was so severe. My spirit left my body. I was watching from outside. And at that point, they created a new part. And the programming was around temple and covenants. And so I can't speak more to that. I don't know specifically what they were doing. It was just, they had loudspeakers. There's loudspeakers. And once you're out and then they bring you back, there's audible voices through the loudspeakers starting the programming.
An important detail in this setup, something that you can hear about from others, but they bring you to the brink of death, or technically you're dead for a moment, and they pull you back in. It's a high technology, but they kill you, they bring you back. They kill you, they bring you back. They kill you. And what part of that is, sometimes they'll tell you, you can't die. There's no escape from us. Even death is no escape. We can bring you right back. And there's truth to that, and it's also a lie, but a person who has gone back and forth of that line 100 times, it actually creates more of this DID kind of stuff we've been talking about, where the parts created out of that are born or saved from death, and they take that and they start turning that into something that they want. So yeah, there's a chair, there's all these things, there's speakers, and they're literally like birthing new parts and introducing foundational logic that part will be built out of whatever that first thing is that comes out of the speaker. And like I said, we talked about computers and manuals, and that's another view. There's a lot of those kind of things.
I've heard some survivors say that they believe that when they create one of these parts, it also, a dark spirit will also inhabit that part. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think that, from what I understand, that's big part of this is Satan and these spirits want to inhabit our bodies.
I've even heard that about people coming out of anesthesia being susceptible. So there is something like when that veil is thin.
This Cecilia, you know what I mean? Could it be that Cecilia, this animation, is actually a spirit entity?
Right.
I don't think so. I've heard that, and I agree with that. I do think people absolutely can be possessed. You've lived with me for 20 years. I think
so
it'd
actually,
be better for him to answer this.
Possession's definitely a real layer to this. But actually, the first thing I would say is a lot of what people see, and they're like, that they would say that's possession. I would actually say it's probably not. It's probably DID. You gotta understand that layer first. You gotta understand the parts, how they come and go, and that's not an evil spirit. That's one of the program parts. Now, that being said, possession's a big part of the SRA world. It's real, and it can be the case. I just, again, with Amy, we used to, there were moments where I thought she was possessed. And in hindsight, she wasn't. It was the broken parts coming out and so forth. But so don't entirely write it off, but you got to balance those two.
Because let's be honest, what was one of the most common things Christ did?
Cast out
spirits, and all of a sudden that doesn't happen anymore. And these people who literally worship Satan, they're not interested in that. And that was the number one thing Christ did, that and heal the sick. And when he sent out his apostles, heal the sick and cast out spirits. And all of a sudden, spirits don't inhabit it. I will tell you this. I don't believe I've ever been through ritual abuse, but I know that there are certain times that that I get in, that I have enough self-awareness to know that there are things I do that dark spirits are attracted to and like.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about President Nelson, or the Elder Nelson, whatever he was, how when he did that, you saw a different look.
Transfigured.
You know, like I hear this constantly. They look different. They look different. And I just cannot believe that is not a reality, is that when they want to inhabit our bodies, and that is the end goal. And you said there's several different levels to this, right? Those that are not conscious and those that finally become conscious. I believe those that become fully conscious, that are in their daylight version, there is a level of evil in them that is not natural. It is not natural for a human to go kill a child. I think when they are doing those things, there is something dark within them that feeds on that, that feeds on the violence, the playing with feces and wiping it. That is unhuman. And so there's no question we all deal with this. Mm-hmm. I know we all, as human experience, we have a spirit that is a child of God, but there are dark spirits that did not get bodies and that want to inhabit all of our bodies. And I think we all have a choice to allow them in at certain times. Yeah.
And to clarify, yes, I think the dividing line is if you're going for it, if your part of you is going that direction, or you're consciously declaring your allegiance to Satan, that's where the possession starts to be the rule, not the exception. If the person in question is, like, again, I would say of Amy, I think her whole life is a pattern of resistance to these things, because there's probably hundreds of memories. There's not a one of them where she's into it or wanting it, or she's always resisting it in any way that she can.
She also came out of it.
And that resistance ultimately led out. And so in her, even, moments where I thought maybe this is possession, look like, no, I don't know that she ever was. I don't know how much that was a part of her experience. But we definitely see it all the time on the other side, where the people who are consciously doing it, they pray to be possessed.
Right.
And it's actually an aspect of the satanic world. The concept of a mask in Satanism is, you are not you. You have no soul, no right to yourself. You have no voice. But if you make that deal, you can wear whatever mask you want. Do you want to be a politician? Do you want to be a rock star? Do you want to be, you put on that mask and do what it takes to get possessed, to amplify your ability to become that.
Yes, because many of these people you read in the victim statements, actually, you see them actually praying for the possession. Yeah. Because they crave, they've learned to crave the same thing that these familiar spirits crave. Yes. And they become one.
They merge with the evil spirits. They give themselves up to it. They make the deal for fame, power, money, sex.
And that is why we talk about, I think you alluded earlier that your part, and I want to clarify, your part has actually participated in sacrifice, correct?
Many parts have. Oh, yes.
And I would dare say that was not, I don't dare say that wasn't you. That was a fraction side of you.
Or a demonic possession, if you're alluding to that.
What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I have a number of being involved in child sacrifice, and the ones I remember, I don't know. I have memories of being dressed in a cloak in my later teenage years and participating in a ritual. In those, I wasn't holding a dagger, but my younger self, often the very younger self, between like 7 and 10, someone is holding your hand. You don't have a lot of control, but then after you bring the dagger down, they convince you it was your fault, that you did this. So I saw, I still have a long way to go. We're 4 years in, and I've had hundreds of memories, and we have put our heart and souls into healing. And there has been some really amazing healing. I mean, I couldn't even talk about this without like being a blubbering fool and word vomiting all over everybody. Before, and now I'm like, yeah, it's a thing. It's in my life, and it really stinks. And we're trying to help our kids, and we're trying to heal. So we've come a long way, but I still have memories to go. There may come memories where is there any part ever that I chose? I'd like to say no. I don't know. I don't think so, because I've seen a really wide variety of memories at this point.
So here's an interesting thing, and I just love to understand this. So you have this one part, Cecilia, who's extremely sexual, correct?
Very much so.
Probably that part, is it fair to say that she enjoys that?
Yeah.
Because you can't just, like this, she's trained to.
She's trained to.
Okay.
She was.
So here's an interesting thing. You and your conscious side get married.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On your conscious side, and you alluded to this, but I'm going to bring this up. One of the problems you had in your marriage, and I bring this up because this is a common thing I hear with survivors, is when they get married, they've grown up very, very, very prudish in their conscious side.
Absolutely.
And when they come to have intimacy, they can't have intimacy. They're scared of sex. They don't want sex. They don't like sex. It's icky. Am I right?
You're totally. Cecilia, I have come to see she's not married to Josh yet.
Okay. But there is a side, right? A part.
Yes. There are memories. She was involved in ritual marriages to other people. And now we're like, it sounds so funny. I know it must sound like
this is a wild
for
world.
the other people, but when I have these journaled conversations with her, and then you have the memories, and it all locks together as pieces. You're like, oh, she's working on joining the marriage. That's where we're in the
let me
healing.
ask you something, and I know this is deeply personal, but this isn't personal to you. This is a condition of what you've been through, and what you've been through is there's so many survivors who have very similar experiences. So my question is this: the things that Cecilia was twisted, it's dark. It's not just healthy sex. It's dark. Oftentimes torture. You know what I mean?
Yep. Very twisted.
Yeah. So how would you say you want to integrate that into a healthy relationship? Or is it you need to find, I don't know, maybe we don't have the answers, but this is my mind trying to understand it. And I know maybe we're all trying to understand this, right?
You should speak to this. What it's like to be Josh married to Amy.
Yeah.
That doesn't have this sexual part.
I mean,
she's not on board.
This is one of the layers to it of how do you know these things are true? Oh, they're true. It's a very real thing. And it's when I said earlier, oh, this explains everything, that I was also alluding to, that layer of our life. But I mean, the truth is, if Amy doesn't think about intimacy, it's a rare day where she actually even thinks about it. Me, a normal guy, I think about it every day.
Yeah, several times a day.
If I don't say or do anything, months will go by, and it won't even, maybe after a few months it'll register that nothing's happened in all that time, but it doesn't come to her, and she doesn't want to think about it. She's perfectly okay if it never ever occurs. And so that's the baseline experience in our marriage.
Not only that, like when we are intimate, there's usually memories going on when we're intimate. It's very hard to be present with my husband. And in fact, last November, we had this quiet moment. I hope this isn't
go ahead.
No, this is important.
Like, go ahead. Put it
because survivors, this is a common thing we hear people struggling with. So I'm sure.
Well, I just cut you both off, so I have to apologize first. But we were alone, which is rare with 6 kids, and we were being intimate, and the second that it started to happen, I had a severe panic attack that I was losing my virginity. And this girl was freaking out. Like I couldn't, here's the adult me. And then this part was louder than the adult me. I was, for 24 hours fully, I was angry at Josh that he'd taken my virginity. And I'm having this fight between the me, like I've been married for 20 years. It wasn't until the next day I was telling Josh about this. And he's like, and you have 6 kids? And it was like, oh my gosh, I can't be like, it was just this moment of what the heck just happened. So we're dealing with this kind of stuff on a regular basis. Intimacy is hard. It's hard.
And it's, I mean, we work out over time a way. Nature finds a way, but anything different, any experimentation, like immediately triggers stuff. Almost, I think every time,
like every sexual thing has been twisted. Everything.
So if and again, saying a lot, maybe revealing too much, but anything I feel or want to explore that isn't very, very the way we've done it a zillion times, it will trigger a new part that knows all about this way of doing it. And now that's got a process, and it's been, I think, the hardest element of all of this.
PTSD.
Yeah,
It's
PTSD.
literally, it's PTSD.
And go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, this is almost a segue, but very much related. What about childbirth? Do you think Cecilia ever was pregnant or ever had children?
I have memories of 2 abortions. Yeah. And I have memories of them extracting, and one where they ate it. And, it's this big, tiny, tiny. The abortions, I was never aware that I was pregnant in my conscious world. I was aware, interestingly, though, that I would get thicker and be extra tired at periods, but I just didn't. You just think you're extra tired. I'm running really fast. My periods were always irregular, crazy. Like I'd skip them and then I'd have them and then I'd skip them. And my only regularity has been, honestly, in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And I used to have hemorrhoids all the time. They went away 4 years ago. So that's why I'm like, there are just all these signs that I'm not being accessed.
And then for all the naysayers out there, they're not like full-term pregnancy. It's like, what do you mean? You didn't know that you were like 8 months pregnant?
Right.
It's probably somewhere early term.
Yeah, very, very early.
Very common.
Yeah.
I appreciate your honesty. I know this is, we're all trying to make sense of this, right? Like this is a world. And the reason I bring that up, because when we've talked to over 100 people who've been through this, and this is a very common thing, the one about when they first get married and all the problems. And to me, that becomes like, okay, boom, another pattern I see. One that people don't talk about. And it's one that I think you will find people will be appreciative because it's helping some common thing. So let me ask you this. I want to, you were also involved and had experience with politicians.
Yeah. I know, I don't know all of them by name. Very high level meetings, high level rituals. The one that I do know about, which is also interesting, is Mitt Romney, because I did not believe for a long time that this runs in family lines. I did not believe it. I'm like, my family line isn't special. I mean, I have Pioneer stock, but there's nothing special.
But that's common though, is
right,
royal
right,
bloodline, Pioneer stock.
So I didn't think I'm just like, we're normal people. So I started to do, as I started to see some with Henry B. Eyring, and who I remembered as a child, my mom saying, oh, he's our relative. And I'd be like, I've never seen him at family functions. So I just put that aside. And then when I had a memory with Mitt Romney, I was like, I remember someone saying we were related somehow to them. So I went back, and I'll come into the memory, but it's really interesting because my great-great-grandfather and Henry B. Eyring's great-great-grandfather is is the same person in the Cottam line. And out of that line, my great-grandfather and Henry B. Eyring's and Mitt Romney's great grandmother are sisters. Okay. So it's like a cousin's relation, but we both come through the same line.
And the reason that's significant is because often, at least what we see in the LDS Church, Satan
Right.
is through their bloodlines.
So Miles Park Romney married my great-grandfather's sister. And that's where the Romneys come in, and the Eyrings marry into that family. And through the Romneys.
And you've seen
through the
abuse
Romneys.
in both those lines.
Yeah, I've seen abuse in both those lines. So I was somewhere between 7 and 10, I want to say. And it was some kind of a big fancy event. And it had to have been at a hotel ballroom or something, one of those big conference rooms, because I just remember the carpet. I often remember patterns on the carpet. It's a thing, a detail I pick out. The pattern of the carpet was like a maroon with a yellow triangle and some kind of floor. What do they call those, French fleur-de-lis or something in the middle? There was something in the middle, but it was a maroon carpet with yellow patterns, diamond patterns. And it comes up, that carpet comes up a lot, actually. That carpet comes up in a lot of my memories. So it was a big, big ballroom. And I was sat on the side with some other kids. And the moment came, they were having a big toast. And Mitt Romney was leading it. And the altar in this memory is crazy interesting. The altars are all very different. It could be stone. It can just be a table. It can be, the altar was made out of cut mirrors. So it speaks to the elegance of the evening and the ritz of the evening. The whole altar was mirrors and little tiny cut mirrors. And I was on that altar. They put me on the altar. And I don't know much more about it except for that Mitt held up a goblet for cheers, and then while he was saying the thing he was saying, he was also finger raping me. So there was I think there's some sort of magic involved there. I don't know enough about that, but like a sex magic kind of thing, calling on something. Anyway, just a really interesting memory. Not a lot of details there, but just really unique, unusual. It was an unusual ritual.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I appreciate you sharing that because I don't know. It's just very clear that this state and this country, again, Epstein, is ruled by a type of group of people. Just again, it goes back to these royal bloodlines. This has always been there. You have these ruling elite who think that. Believe in this dark magic because there is real power there. And then you have the sheep, the peasants throughout time who are kept in ignorance about it.
Can I ask a question? Because you're talking about bloodlines and we skipped over this at the very beginning when we talked about your family. Do you think your mother or your father were involved? Do you have any memories of your own direct family?
So I have a lot of reason to believe that my family is in my same boat, but I'm choosing not to speak about family right now.
I think
that's very respectable. Do you have any other experiences you want to share? Especially, I know one of the things people are very curious about is how pervasive this is.
Specifically in the church?
Specifically in my church, our church.
Yeah.
And you even alluded to something earlier, I forget if it was you, Josh,
Mm-hmm.
this LDS version. I think we were talking about DID.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's been called a specific cult. Do you think that this is exclusive to this church, this group, or maybe there were other groups that were involved?
In her abuse?
In your abuse?
It was bigger than church. There's church abuse. There's community abuse. There's kind of the dark. I don't want to call it Hollywood because the dark. There's different avenues. I think I was just accessed through a number of places. I'm still finding out. Like I just a few weeks ago had a memory on a military base for lying training, trying to teach me how to lie believably. So it's massive. It's widespread. It's in every religion. It's in anywhere there's an organized group, they're going to find a way to infiltrate, especially if there's children, if there's access to children. I don't know, Josh, do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I had, it's kind of an SRA world, and it's not just us. I think 2025 was the year and era of Epstein. And now in certain areas of, really high media, but independent, people are talking about it. Candace Owens is sharing. Candace Owens had a video of a sacrifice on her show last year. Tucker Carlson. It's who's the big top podcaster?
Sean Ryan. Oh,
well, him too. They're talking about it, but the bald guy.
Oh, Joe Rogan?
Yes, sorry, I just blanked on his name. They're all just like, all of a sudden, it's matter of fact. This is how the world is run. These things are real. They're happening. And so the conversation's been happening on a national level. But it's also happening here in the Utah part of the world among our most trusted institutions. And Amy and I are still, if not more so, deep believers in the Restoration and the Book of Mormon. But we had to, it took time to divide between, like, well, how can both be true? And there are great answers for us, excellent answers I've found in Scripture that, for me, it's like it's all accounted for, it's all explained. It was always there, but it was a plot twist for sure in the way that you come up in your community and how you're led to believe and perceive things and trust authority and so there's a very awkward shift initially, but then I think you get more back than you lose, and that's amazing when that happens. But yes, there's an LDS version of this. There is a Catholic version of this. There are Protestant versions of this. They're all tailored exactly to
Jewish?
how those groups. Very much so. There, the CIA is its own
Government
world of
version?
this.
Yeah.
Government layers. There's the local politicians. There's the state politicians. There's the federal politicians. Every layer of this it's there. Big business, theme parks, the hospitals, the schools, it's there. And it wasn't always there. It wasn't always like this. We're living at the tail end of a thing that's been growing for a long time and will have an end hopefully soon.
You know what's interesting, especially this year? It's the 250th birthday of America.
Yeah.
And what we've all come to realize is this has gone on forever. When our founding fathers revolted against England, it wasn't just a political revolt. It was revolting against this spiritual darkness that was ruling the world. And when they formed America, they pulled away from that. And they allowed religion, they allowed people to think for themselves, they allowed the light and truth and beauty and prosperity. The common man was no longer a slave. But what's been happening since then is they've been clawing back to the point where now we are back at 1776, where they are back almost in complete control of every religion. They are almost in complete control of our politicians, our state. And I think it's incredible.
Especially as we reach the end of the fourth turning.
Yes. One of the things that we have many survivors talk about is abuse in the temple. And I want to hear your thoughts on that. But one of the things that I learned recently, Jeffrey Epstein had bought some books. One of them was Sex Magic. And one of the things he was doing is he was going and getting these Well, he was getting different sacred objects from the Catholic Church, from what's the cube where they have their thing in Islam,
Mosque.
the mosque. But he's getting sacred relics from all over the world and bringing them to the temple he had in his ranch where they would perform sacrifice. And according to this book, Sex Magic, even if it's when you bring objects or come to an area where there is intense devotion, even if it's good devotion, it brings power to their rituals.
In 2007, Epstein purchased 2 books in the same month. The first book was The Secrets of Western Tantra by Christopher Hyatt, and the second book was Modern Sex Magic by Donald Michael Craig. Both of these books lay out the exact framework that I have been walking you through so far. Christopher Hyatt, who wrote The Secrets of Western Tantra, was a 9th degree initiate of Crowley's OTO sex magic group. And that's the same initiatory rank as Jack Parsons, the rocket scientist who performed Babylon working with L. Ron Hubbard in 1946. Hyatt's book teaches that intense physical and emotional states, like sex, can be used to create an outcome by implanting it into the subconscious mind, which will then shape reality itself. Donald Michael Craig, the author of Modern Sex Magic, wrote what is essentially an instruction manual. The book traces the lineage of Kabbalistic sex magic directly from the Temple of Solomon to the Knights Templar and then to Aleister Crowley all the way through to the present day. So both of these books, purchased by Epstein in the same month, are the operation manuals for the exact tradition that I've been describing throughout this entire video. Here is what I think Epstein was actually doing. I think he was building a type of spiritual portal or altar. He needed a physical space charged with sacred objects from as many religious traditions as he could, so that he could summon entities into the material world through ritual sex. He was trying to summon an entity just like Parsons and Hubbard did at the Babylon working ritual in 1946. Once you understand this framework, every single weird thing that Epstein collected after 2007 makes sense. So, what was he collecting besides petroglyphs? 10 years after he bought those books, 3 pieces of cloth arrived at his Florida residence before they were forwarded on to his island. Somehow, Epstein convinced someone to send him 3 pieces of the kishwa. The kishwa is the black and gold cloth that covers the Kaaba in Mecca. The Kaaba is the most sacred site in all of Islam. Muslims believe that the Kaaba was the first house of worship ever built and that it was originally constructed by Adam, the first man. Inside the Kaaba, there is the black stone. And according to Muslims, this stone was sent down from heaven and given to Adam by the angel Gabriel. And this stone was originally pure white, but it has absorbed so much sin that it has turned completely black. The kishwa, which Epstein somehow received, is the cloth that covers this structure. The cloth is replaced every year, but Epstein was able to convince somebody to send him a piece of it. The cloth that he received was in active religious use in Mecca until the moment it was sent to his island. And according to the woman who sent it to him, this cloth had been touched by 10 million Muslims of different denominations in prayer. Epstein also acquired the Las Trampas death bell, which he apparently displayed in his Zorro Ranch home. The death bell is a cathedral bell that was used exclusively in Catholic funeral masses. The bell was originally installed in the church in 1760, but it was stolen during a renovation in the 1930s. It was never found until somehow it ended up at Jeffrey Epstein's home. And you can imagine the type of spiritual energy that a death bell would have collected on it. These are completely separate sacred traditions from different corners of the globe, and Epstein was putting them all together in the same place. This is an esoteric framework. The more traditions that you draw from, the more spiritual charge accumulates inside of that space. Epstein was building the most spiritually charged environment that he possibly could.
And all of a sudden it dawned on me why they would be interested in doing rituals in the temple because you have during the day all this good people bringing good energy, good, faith and worship and power to these spots, which then by night they feed on this. And that's what sex magic talks about.
Loose energy harvesting.
Yes. Energy harvesting, which all of a sudden it dawned on me. That's why one of the reasons they target temples. Do you want to share any experiences you had? Did you have experience in the temple?
Yeah. So we talked about the one in the Provo temple when I was with the false Jesus. And yeah, there are others like that. But I do want to say that I've been really blessed. When I was a really avid temple goer when we were still in. And I worked in the temple and had some of my greatest, really exceptional spiritual experiences. That's where, in fact, the girl I go to the gym with in the morning, she talks about how that's the only time she gets a break. That's the only time she can hear the Spirit. It's a real gift to have that quiet time. And my parents both work in the temple, and they are honest, good people. And there are just so many good people. There's so many good things that have come out of some of these things that have also been used for dark. A lot of church places have both sides, the good and the dark. So, like, in fact, church office buildings, I mean, it's a lot. There are a lot of great people. I have a friend who works there, and fantastic person. But I have memories, and multiple memories, in the church office building. And one of all the upper leadership that I've had experiences with, there's only one that has required a sex act from me. And I was very young, again, probably five, had cute little ponytails and a little pinafore dress. And I was taken by a nicely dressed pin skirt woman up an elevator into some kind of conference room. It was like in the churches, they have the high council room with that huge, long conference table. This was a large conference table, and there were men around the table. And they were doing, it was part of a touch programming, where if you touch a certain part of my ear, I would dissociate. And as part of that programming, Neil Maxwell required me to perform oral sex for him. And then there was a sexual party thereafter in that room. And then was all done, and they tidied me up, and I went with the secretary back down it didn't take a long time. Just went down the elevator, and she walked me back out to a car, and I was taken back. So
it's hard. Maxwell was one of my favorites, I'd say. Alexia too.
Oh, he helped me shape my testimony in the church. Some of his talks.
And so it's I will tell you again, you're not the first one to talk to me about experiences there, and I've had other people talk about experiences where I very vividly remember them talking about even his eyes and the animations in his face during the abuse. And it's hard. It's something I don't want to believe. It's something I don't want to be true, but it's something I've come to grasp and wrestle with and understand that there is this duality. There is this, I know what's going on, and it's hard. It's hard. And I know it's hard. I always feel bad. No, Jason, I watched your podcast, and I tell them, I'm sorry. I hurt for people to see this stuff. Some people who, find, I guess, maybe a level of joy out of seeing, this stuff exposed. But I think for anyone in the church, there's no joy. It's pain. It's very painful to see men that you've built your foundation around capable of doing such horrific things.
Yeah, it was devastating the first time I saw these men in rituals. Devastating. You can't believe it. You won't believe it. You have to sit with it for days, some of them months. you can't believe it. You're like, I'm making this up. I'm making this up. I'm making this up. And all you can do is just keep going and then just watch how pieces come together, and it validates itself. But it takes time. And it is, if you're watching this and it's unbelievable, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I think we're all familiar with Joseph Smith's quote, I wouldn't believe anyone for not believing my story. I wouldn't believe my story if I hadn't experienced it. And that's all we can do is say, we experienced this. It's real. It's real. It's been proven a dozen times in different ways. We've had people come to us. We've had spiritual answers. We've had, I guess I wish we could go another 10 hours, just keep going, everything that's happened. But, yeah, it's interesting because victims have to look at it and they have to grapple with it. And they have to have room and time for their mind to see how it can come together, how it is true. But we all have to do the same. Like, we're all victims here.
Yes.
We're all getting maxed out by this.
Yes.
And just like, it can't be. That's where you start, right? And I had an experience like that early on when these things were flying out. I kneeled in prayer. I reached my breaking point, and I just prayed to the Lord and said, it's too big, it's too much. I can't believe this. What do you want me to do? And I was directed to go speak to somebody else, and that led to them having memories, and they were identical to Amy's, like unusually identical. I've experienced this a number of times with different people, but this one was from the Lord. It was his answer. It was a repeat. And this person described, and there's no way they could have, unless the same thing had happened to them, but they, same age, same things. And when that happened, it was enough for me to get over that hump of like, this is true. I've just been given the witness I asked for. So you just have to step back and be patient and pray and read your scriptures and let it figure itself out. It will. It did for us. There's amazingly good news on the other end of it. There's a valid relationship with Jesus Christ. There's incredible
freedom from bondage.
There's healing. There's light and truth bursting everywhere as this thing cracks and falls apart. So we're I mean, it's still hard. There's still a lot of moments, but man, we're so, on the other end, excited for what we're experiencing and feeling and what's on the horizon. So yeah, there's hope in it, but you have to stare it in the face. You have to look at the thing you do not want to look at. You have to face that you were fooled, you were taken advantage of, you were abused. Nobody wants. We all know what it's like to grow up here in this church, in this community, what it meant to us, what it still means to us, and then for that vision to be shattered by the darkest things that we cannot imagine. And the insanity, at least temporarily, that creates, but there are answers, or there are very good answers, and there's truth in this.
Very, very well said.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, I'd like everyone to get a chance to get some closing thoughts. And Josh, if you don't mind,
Yeah. So I love my relationship with Scripture and the Lord through Scripture. And I just wanted to read a couple that I think are undeniable witnesses. I want to read Doctrine and Covenants, section 1, verse 3. And just a quick setup. This was not the first revelation chronologically. It was revealed as a preface to the Doctrine and Covenants, which is a treatment on the 1830 church, and some other stuff that I, again, won't get into. But this was the Lord's preface to the Doctrine and Covenants. And in verse 1 and 2, he addresses his audience. And then in verse 3, he says, "And the rebellious shall be pierced with much sorrow, for their iniquities shall be spoken upon the housetops, and their secret acts shall be revealed." And if you keep going, the Lord begins to lay out the beginning of the great and marvelous work. And that was a perspective switch or shift for me, because you grow up, it's already happening, it's already happened, it's been going for a long time. As I reread everything, no, it hasn't begun yet. It's going to. It's still in front of us. But the very first act of the great and marvelous work is this: he will reveal the secret acts. The rebellious are different from the wicked. Wickedness is being contrary to God's order and will for whatever reason. Rebelliousness is a decision. And I think he's speaking to the people we've been talking to here, those who are culpable. And their day is coming to a close because it's all coming out. And I think from 2025 onward, it's all coming out in a hurry now. And then I want to just read Ether chapter 8, 3 verses here. This is Moroni. Everybody knows this one, but just listen to it in the context of SRA, because after you know about SRA, it can't mean anything else. It can't be applying to anything else when SRA is on the table, right?
Epstein.
Yeah.
Right?
So, whatsoever nation shall uphold such secret combinations to get power and gain until they shall spread over the nation, behold, they shall be destroyed. For the Lord will not suffer that the blood of his saints, which shall be shed by them, shall always cry unto him from the ground. For vengeance upon them, and yet he avenged them not. Wherefore, O ye Gentiles in the United States, in Utah, in the LDS Church, it's wisdom in God that these things should be shown unto you, that thereby ye may repent of your sins, and suffer not that these murderous combinations shall get above you, which are built up to get power and gain, and the work, yea, even the work of destruction come upon you. Yea, even the sword of justice of the eternal God shall fall upon you to your overthrow and destruction, if ye shall suffer these things to be. Wherefore the Lord commandeth you, when you see these things come among you, that ye shall awake to a sense of your awful situation, because of this secret combination which shall be among you. Or woe be unto it, because of the blood of them who have been slain, for they cry from the dust for vengeance upon it, and also those who built it up. So I remember as a young, teenager, reading about secret murder in the Book of Mormon, and I, at the time, I'm like, what secret murder? Because I knew it was talking about the last days. We are now witnesses, and Amy in particular. There will be ramifications for this conversation today, but we're not backing down from our testimony of the people who have been killed by this, who are dead. The pendulum must swing back the other way at some point, is what the Lord is saying, on the system, on the civilization, on the combinations, the secret combinations. But this language is very particular. When you notice it, it's time to stand up for the truth. It's time to get away from it, reject it, whatever that means for you in your situation, how you're connected to it. And I promise you, you're connected to it. Whoever you are, you're connected. It's just a question of how you're connected. And that's something you have to figure out so that the destruction doesn't come upon you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. That was awesome. Amy?
Yeah, when Josh said it's too big, too much, it's just too big, too much, when he was trying to take it all in, I watched Josh with the crushing weight of this. I just want to express gratitude. I don't know that I could have married anyone else and I'd still be married. He has stuck through this. He's been faithful all the way. And I don't think I could be at this level of healing without him. I have another journal entry on April 25th, 2025. And I said, "Oh Lord, Josh needs you to lift him. He's afraid, he's suffering. I can't fix it." Sometimes I think his suffering and grief, specifically about SRA, are worse than any SRA victims. It's such a weight to hold, and I just feel so grateful that he's my husband and the father of our children. Thousands of prayers have been petitioned on this subject in our house and in our marriage and among us individually. And one thing that I really struggled with was, what do I do with this love that I have? Some of these abusers are people that I really love. People that were close to me at certain eras or journeys of my life. And then there's some of them that you just hate. They've damaged you. They've damaged your children. You don't know what to do with it. And last summer, trying to be prepared for the well to flow here. Last summer, I really hit a hard point. And I had one day where I just couldn't deal with both the love and the concern for some of these abusers. Because you don't know who's consciously abusing and who's disassociatively abusing. Sometimes you don't know. And I was struggling. I couldn't do anything. None of my tools were working. I took a hot bath, nothing. I went running. I ran myself hard. I couldn't shake it. I journaled. I called my therapist. I did everything to try to shake this just absolute internal turmoil and battle. And I don't know, I had an experience with Josh. We went up in the mountains and I had this experience with him. And my whole body was flooded with forgiveness for anyone who's ever hurt me. I understood that I can't condemn them. I don't know their story. I don't know the state of their soul. Even the people I think I know the state of their soul. It doesn't mean I don't have boundaries and I don't try to be safe and keep my kids safe. But I just was able to hand it to the Savior and to say, "This is yours now." And I was completely washed over with forgiveness for myself and forgiveness for all of my abusers. Again, forgiveness is not the same as holding them to their feet to the fire. But I want to end with a plea, a very personal plea to I want to speak to those who are involved in perpetrating abuse on me and my children, and anyone who's involved in perpetrating abuse on anyone of any kind. It's a plea to repent. It's a plea to come to Jesus. A plea to seek out the one who has power to save, the power to forgive, and maybe most importantly, the power to heal. Please come. Come to know the Jesus that I have come to know. He can save you. And it's not too late. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Beautiful. As you told your stories, especially during the first half, I started thinking about, I think they call them upside down or double-sided tête bâchée books. Have you heard of this? It's a French type of book where you read the book from front to back and it tells a story. And then you flip the book upside down, like 180 degrees, and it's printed in a way that everything is inverted, subject to the first, relative to the first story. And even so much as not just the text, but the drawings and how they work together. So the illustrations, they're transformative in the way they describe things. And sometimes it tells a whole different story. And I thought of that when we were going through your original story and then how you woke up together and started piecing things together. And sometimes those images tell a different story, and sometimes the two halves kind of come together and complete a story. And it's interesting because I feel like we're in this phase right now of this upside down inversion, and much like the rituals too, it's like this inversion. So it's just a concept that kept coming to me. Also, like when you were talking about the musical programming as a kid and the inversions there, because there's some great hymns we talked about at the beginning, and even nursery rhymes. I thought about Nathan Reynolds and his stories about London bridges falling down. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but basically having to sacrifice the children to keep the bridge up. And that was what was sustaining the bridge, and then all the alleged tunnels that were underneath the bridge. Again, this inversion of the light of childhood hymns and stories, and then what's potentially really happening underneath them or sustaining them. And then the last thing that came to me was your original memory about the circuses and the potential that this could be the shrine circuses of the 1980s, which is tied to the Shriners Children's Hospital, which is also tied to the Shriners Temple in Salt Lake, and just putting all these pieces together from different people's stories and how they all potentially fit together. You go through the Shriners Children's Hospital and you actually see all the circuses in their pictures if you're ever able to go to this very exclusive hospital, and mysterious. A lot of people don't actually know what goes on at this temple. So it just leaves you with some answers, leaves you with many more questions. And I just hope as you continue to remember that you continue to share and help heal not just yourself, but also everyone you touch, including us who haven't even been through this. So the last thing I want to say is happy birthday, Amy. Thank you for sharing your birthday with us. I know that's a significant day to you for many reasons, and we're honored that you can spend it with us, both of you.
Yeah, can I add that note
Yes,
there?
please.
That birthdays for victims are often very twisted days. And the last time I reported, you as a victim a lot of times on certain dates or at certain times a year. And for me, my birthday, you check in with a handler, and it's just a strong compulsion to reach out to someone or have a conversation. It's just this really strong compulsion. And my last report was in June of 2021, and I'm so happy to deliver my latest report
To all of our viewers.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amy, Josh, I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. I just want to thank you both individually and as a couple. And honor you for what you've been through and what you've suffered and what you've overcome. And, your suffering as a child and your suffering in recalling and reliving that hell, and your suffering and reliving it with her and trying to wrap your head around it. And I want to thank our listeners and our viewers for suffering with us, and which is what it means to be a Christian, is to bear one another's burdens. And that's what Christ did. As he suffered in Gethsemane, and he suffered because he sat next to you and felt that pain, and he took that. And that's what it means to be a Christian, is to stand with people who have been through the most horrific things. But the thing I love about you and our survivors is that this is the big showdown. This is the time that people have looked forward to since the dawn of time, the climax of the last days. And the thing I appreciate about our survivors is you are the ones that are pointing the way to the battle. You are pointing to the darkness. You are showing us the evil that is enslaving us. Because again, it's not just you. We are all enslaved by this system. This system, that runs Epstein, that runs this state. It is enslaving. It is taking away our freedoms. It is the adversary building the mark of the beast, the Antichrist. It is all coming. And his foundation is this abuse. It is this slavery. And it is you who are the leaders who are, I believe, who are in the front line showing that to us. And, today I was at the funeral, and the closing song, wasn't the closing song, it was one of the songs that August wanted sung, or they picked. And it's called The Poor Wayfaring Man of Grief. And there was a singer that came up and sang the first three verses, which were profound to me. I'm going to read the first, but then I went and skipped after he was done to the end, and I want to read that. But it's a song about, I'll read the first verse. A poor wayfaring man of grief hath often crossed me on my way, who sued so humbly for relief that I could never answer nay. I had not power to ask his name, whereto he went, or whence he came. Yet there was something in his eye that won my love, I knew not why. And each verse talks about how he would serve this individual. And then it comes this, and when I read this, I fell apart, these last three verses. Stripped, wounded, beaten nigh to death, I found him by the highway side. I roused his pulse, brought back his breath, revived his spirit, and supplied wine, oil, refreshment. I had myself a wound concealed. And of course, as I read that, I couldn't help think about survivors of abuse. In prison, I saw him next, condemned to meet a traitor's doom at morn. The tide of lying tongues I stemmed, and honored him mid shame and scorn. My friendship's utmost zeal to try, he asked if I for him would die. The flesh was weak, my blood ran chill, but my free spirit cried, I will. Then in a moment to my view, this stranger started from disguise. The tokens in his hands I knew, the Savior stood before my eyes. He spake, and my poor name he named. Of me thou hast not been ashamed. These deeds shall thy memorial be. Fear not, thou didst them unto me. And as I read that, of course, I thought of the many survivors who've been through, such things as you and you. And that is our role, is to stand with these individuals. And One of the ways I'm going to ask you to support this incredible couple. When Alexia and I'd go visit them in their home, they make bread, and we would eat their bread, and we would love the bread, and we'd bring the bread home. And they started a website to sell bread, and it is some of the best bread you'll ever have. And what is the website for that?
SpringCitySourdough.com.
I don't take carbs lightly.
We don't take carbs lightly, especially bread, but we gobble up their bread.
Gobble. For real.
And so what I'm going to ask is you go to the website and support them. Buy good bread. Buy, like I say, we believe in good water, good food. The poison, the toxins in our food are horrific. Subscribe and start allowing them to sell you their bread, the bread that is consistent, the bread. Do you want to say anything about that, about your bread or about the website?
The website should explain everything, but we make it the best way we can figure out, and it's an element of healing for us, and it's an element of trying to share that with other people. But we're trying to be in the space that is healed. We're trying to live the lives that, a life we couldn't live before because we didn't know or have understanding, or we couldn't because we were so burdened with what we learned or this. But now it's like, what's something that we could do that would shine light and bring out the strength of our heritage and our community. And so that's just, we're trying to heal and express through this, and maybe there's something there for you.
Well, I'm going to ask, we need to eat bread. Buy their bread. Period. Support these people.
It's literally
support
delicious.
These. It is delicious. And honestly, what's more delicious is when you know who you're supporting and you know what you're doing for a cause. And so I'm going to ask you to please go to their website, put a link here. It'll be in the show notes. Subscribe, and just have that bread shipped to you every week that's made fresh.
You have 2 subscribers right here.
Yes.
Seriously.
And the last thing I'll say is this is, we do all this, these brave survivors come on. We go through what we go through, for you. Because this is about you. This is about, why are you on this earth? This is about, why do you have eyes to see? Why is it you see these things and know they're true? And so many of our neighbors have their heads in the sand thinking all is well in Zion. Why is it that for some reason your heart feels pulled? Why is it you feel a sense of justice and injustice and are unwilling to sit by and feel this frustration? I will tell you why. It is because God sent you, ordained you, anointed you to stand with these brave survivors and with his army of angels, one of which, August, is on that other side, to fight for Christ, to fight for the children. This is the heart. This is the heart of the battle of good and evil. It isn't the political. It is this, because this is what controls the political. Epstein is what controls our politicians. It isn't left, right. It is light and dark. And so few people are blinded to the heart of the fight, but you have eyes to see, and it is because you have a role to play. And so I just encourage you to find out what that is and stand, because we won't always be here. But God needs you to stand into your purpose. And I just want to thank those of you. I see you in the comments. We love you. We honor you, both survivors and those who are fighting with survivors. It is an honor to stand shoulder to shoulder with you in this fight. And God bless you all.
Hey guys, I had some thoughts I wanted to add as an addendum. The Peterson girls episode came out after I had recorded my episode, and as I watched theirs, I had some just things I really felt like it would be beneficial to add. So before mine comes out, I'm hoping to send this to the Prestons, and they can add this addendum to the podcast that I recorded. So some of my thoughts, the abuse I experience is the same. It's the same patterns, the same kinds of things, but I had a very different upbringing, and my family was really incredible. I had really loving parents who taught me the gospel of Jesus Christ, taught me faith, repentance, baptism, gift of the Holy Ghost. And that was a huge part of my upbringing. My family does not remember. And until some of them do remember, or my parents remember, until somebody in my family remembers, I just feel out of respect for their journey not to share anything that involves my family members. But also my parents have been really supportive in helping me piece pieces of my puzzle together, helping me fill in details, dates, stuff like that. So my heart goes out to the Petersons, because even though I went through some really horrific, terrible things, I still had the blessing of a really loving home, and I'm so grateful for that. Another thought is that my parents would have been in the same stake, and I believe they know the Petersons, and I can't speak for them. I don't know what their thoughts are on this, but I can speak to the shock of waking up to my own abuse and how hard it is to grapple with all of this. It's so, it destroys your version of reality. Up is down and down is up, and light is dark and dark is light, and there's just so much cognitive dissonance that goes on. It can cause a lot of suffering and pain to learn about these things. And so I just want to offer basically my condolences to everyone who's going through this grieving process, especially those in Heber, because it's so close to home. Although it's not specific to Heber, this is a worldwide, nationwide, a citywide. It's everywhere. This web is across the world. I still want to acknowledge those in Heber who are learning about this and in their own backyards. It's a very difficult thing. I want to note, when the Peterson girls showed the road just behind their church that goes up to the girls' camp, it was like, because in 7th grade-ish, I think the summer of 7th grade, there was a stake missionary activity where we were paired with a companion, and we had an overnight, like a sleepover with that companion at someone's house in the stake. And the next morning I was taken with another girl in my stake who was not my companion up that area, that same area. It may have been that same road. I actually believe it was, but it was a road that was east of the stake center. And as you turn to go, you went east of the stake center on Mill Road. You turn to go south on an unimproved road. It was an unimproved road. There was a grove of like some aspen trees, and we were set in a clearing right there in the aspens. And then there was a ritual that we would individually, there were 2 other girls we met up there. Someone else had taken them up there. And so there were 4 of us, and there was a ritual, a cement stone altar with a cement top. And there was a ritual in those trees right up that road, right around that area where the girls are talking about, right in that area around the Heber Valley Girls Camp, which is, I don't know what it's called now, but back then it was the girls camp. And then we were brought back down after that ritual to another ritual with more girls at the First, Sixth, Ninth Ward building on 5th North. So that church right next to J.R. Smith Elementary, where I went to elementary school. That road, 5th North, there were a number of things that happened on that road at J.R. Smith Elementary and at the First, Sixth, Ninth Ward building. But we were brought back again to a ritual at the First, Sixth, Ninth Ward building, which would have worked because the stake center activity was at, or the stake activity was at the stake center on Mill Road. So we were brought to this ritual where there were at least a dozen girls. I don't know where they came from or where they had come from before. We had been up in the Lake Creek area and been brought back. And then after that ritual, we were taken to the stake center on Mill Road to join the rest of the youth who were at the missionary training activity in the chapel. So it just really hits home. These are the same things, same kind of buildings. I just quickly jotted down some other things. I mentioned J.R. Smith. I was taken from J.R. Smith so many times, and there were, I had a teacher that molested me at J.R. Smith, and I had other experiences at the school or somewhere very close to the school in an area. And then again, the First, Sixth, Ninth Ward building, which is right next door to J.R. Smith Elementary. And then I mentioned the stake center. When my very, very first memories were at that stake center on Mill Road, and where I was taken from nursery, and a guy handed me to another guy in the men's bathroom where I was raped, and then they, dressed me again and handed me back out the door and took me back to nursery. Just really horrible stuff. And then it's just everywhere. It's everywhere. I have memories of being taken from the high school, Wasatch High School, which was the original high school that was on Main Street. And I was taken from the middle school swimming pool to a location that was a private, almost like a barn, a big barn, but a private location. Lots of remote places, taken to lots of private properties. And I was taken, when I was 16, I was taken up Daniels Canyon to Daniels Summit Lodge. And I remember being, 12, 13 in Young Women's. We had an activity at Deer Creek, and I was taken in a boat. We were in the activity, we were in a boating, and I was taken across the lake to the northwest bank, where there was a rape that happened there with a bunch of young men who were not in my ward. Private homes, private buildings. The clock tower did not exist. I'm too old for that. It wasn't there when I was growing up. But I just want to validate their story. There are so many places these things are happening that this takes place. And I also want to add just that this is heavy stuff. It's really hard to look at. I've had a lot of time to sit with it and process it. But if you're really struggling with this, I just want to say to you that earth has no sorrow that heaven cannot heal. And that despite the hard and horrific nature of this stuff, I just want to say that Jesus is so real, and he has led me through my healing journey. And even if you were not directly abused and you're still bothered by all of this, because how can it not bother you? Take your broken heart over this to the Lord and let him walk you through this, because the healing that he has brought me is so real, and my relationship with him has improved in incredible ways as I've allowed him to walk me through this and extend his healing to me. So thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for giving victims a chance to talk and a space to open up and tell the truth.
Hey, thank you guys. I have just the greatest love for survivors. You know that. And people always ask, Jason, what can we do? What can we do? I stand completely and firmly behind Ashley Smith and her organization, Still Waters Healing Foundation. I'm going to have her share a little bit of what she's doing, and we're going to encourage you to help her as she reaches out to help these incredible survivors in their healing.
I am the founder and director of Still Waters Healing Foundation, and as an SRA survivor myself, I created this space for survivors of sexual abuse, SRA, and human sex trafficking, where they can find healing and safety and stillness inside community. The heart of the foundation is found in Psalms chapter 23, and we learned there that even though these survivors have walked through the valley of the shadow of death, the Lord can restore their souls and lead them beside still waters. With this heart of the foundation, we teach survivors to bring stillness back into their bodies, to their nervous system, to their minds, their emotions, and ultimately their soul, with safe support and in community. We begin with our Open Waters monthly in-person gatherings where survivors experience nervous system education, somatic healing, and practical tools to empower their healing to help them move forward in their journey. We're expanding our trusted network of professionals, offering a range of healing modalities and therapies so each survivor can find what truly supports their individual journey as well as their community healing. And from there, we move into deeper programs and an immersive retreats with our first retreat coming this fall, where we spend 3 days going into deeper healing. And our website is stillheals.org, and this is where you can join or donate.
Ash, you're awesome. Thank you for doing that. And I'm going to ask you guys, you are so incredible. Our audience does so much to fight and stand on for this battle of light and dark. I know you guys are generous. You've been so generous with us, with Alexia and I, especially with our lawsuit, and we have the greatest love and appreciation for all of your sacrifices. I am going to ask you to make a sacrifice and help Ashley and her organization. I believe in her. I believe that this is why she is on this earth. I believe this is why she has been rescued from what she has been through, is so that she can lead this effort. And so I'm going to ask you, please go to her website, make a donation, help her make a difference and be part of the transforming some of these incredible lives of these individuals and helping them heal. Thank you guys so much.